Senators Fitzwater, Schnelting, Brown, Gregory, Schroer,
Here.
Washington, Weber.
Quorum being established, I move that we move into executive session. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. We are in an executive session, and I now move that Senate Bill 40 be brought before the committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is before the committee. This bill was presented last week by Senator Mosley, and it establishes the Missing and Murdered African American Women and Girls Task Force. Is there any discussion on this bill? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Senators Fitzwater,
Aye.
Schnelting,
Aye.
Brown, Gregory, Schroer,
Aye.
Washington, Weber.
Aye.
I'm sorry, I didn't say this specifically, but that was on the motion to move due past Senate Bill 40. So I apologize for not saying that at first, but that vote was 6 aye? 6 ayes, 0. By your vote of 6 to ayes, 0, no, you have moved to due past Senate Bill 40. I now move that Senate Bill 52 be brought before the committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The bill is before the committee. This is the bill presented last week by Senator Schroer on St. Louis Police Department, and Senate Bill. There's a substitute that was sent out last week. Hopefully, you all got that in your emails. Had some more crime information in that committee sub. It also combines 52 and 44, which are Senator Schroer's and my versions. Senator Schroer will be the handler of the bill, and that version also has the House language on St. Louis control of the police department. That is at least the most latest negotiated language that we're aware of. So that's why that language has been changed in that particular spot. And I do move that we adopt the substitute. I'm sorry. I have a second. I have a second. Any discussion on the substitute? Seeing none, all those in favor of the substitute signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. You've adopted the substitute. Any discussion on the underlying motion to move? I now move that we do pass Senate Bills 52 and 44, Senate Committee substitute for Senate Bills 52 and 44. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion on the full bill? Seeing none, Alyssa, call the roll.
Senators Fitzwater,
Aye.
Schnelting,
Aye.
Brown, Gregory,
Aye.
Schroer,
Aye.
Washington, Weber.
No.
By your vote of 4-2, you have voted due pass Senate Committee substitute for Senate Bills 52 and 44. Next, we will move into the hearing. We will move out of executive session.
Second.
We have a second. Do we need? I don't even know if we need a motion to come out of that. Do we need a motion to come out of that? Okay. All right. So we're just out of executive session. All we need is a motion and a second. So we're going to go to Senator Carter's bill, which is Senate Bill 58. And let me lay some groundwork here really quick because there's a lot of people here to testify for a lot of bills. There's several big bills here in front of us. If we can keep the testimony down to a 2-minute maximum, we are going to set a timer. We're going to be very strict because we go into session. We need to be out of here by 3:45. If we do need to give people a chance from having driven across the state to come testify and have their say in committee. If we deem we need to recess, we may come back after session if we don't get through everybody because we want to honor your time and your effort to be here. But if you can keep it to 2 minutes, we're going to be really strict on that testimony, and we'll go back and forth supporting and opposition so everybody feels like they're getting heard at least relatively fairly. So just keep your comments to a minimum. Also, if you're standing, it doesn't look like that's a problem at the moment, but there are a lot of people here for all these bills. Please, there's overflow room in the other committee hearing room, or stand outside. And then also make sure you fill out your witness forms because we need those for records. Yeah, and once you've testified, if you don't mind clearing the room for other people to be in here, that'd be great. I think those are all the ground rules. Senator Carter, you can proceed when you're ready.
Mr. Chair, committee members, thank you for hearing Senate Bill 58. This is similar language that has been passed in Texas, Georgia, Oklahoma, Iowa, Tennessee, and there will be some language changes to this legislation, but this bill was a catalyst to have a broader conversation about how states are grappling to deal with a crisis that be classified into three main categories. Having been to the border twice and having lived at the border as a teen, I was very curious to hear and see kind of what the reality it was at the border. And so in the interim, I was down there twice. The first time I was down there with a group of legislators from both the House and the Senate with an organization, but I felt like it's easy to kind of get one-sided story when you are just hearing kind of things from a vacuum. And so I initiated a conversation with some sheriffs and local law enforcement that were on the border themselves. That's where they serve. Some highway patrol, and made a trip with two of my local sheriffs and a local police chief. What we learned was startling. The cartel profits have gone from $5 million to $13 billion annually from trafficking drugs and fentanyl. It is the number one killer. Fentanyl is the number one killer of adults 18 to 45, and Missouri sees 1,000 unoccupied minors trafficked annually. This isn't just a border crisis, it's a humanitarian crisis, a health crisis, and a national security crisis. The U.S. Constitution, in its preamble, reminds us of our purpose as a nation. We, the people, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Justice is not an abstract concept. It is foundational to who we are. St. Augustine once said, "In the absence of justice, what is sovereignty but organized robbery?" We must act to preserve the integrity of our state and its people, as justice is the cornerstone of the rule of law. The Missouri Constitution reinforces this responsibility. Article 1, Section 3 declares that people's rights to regulate the government for their safety and happiness. Missouri also has a duty to protect its borders and ensure the welfare and security of its residents. In breaking this crisis into three categories, the first one being humanitarians. We know that thousands of unaccompanied minors are being trafficked across our borders and within Missouri. These children are being exploited. Families across Missouri suffer from the ripple effects of this crisis, from trafficking in rural areas to its presence in urban areas. We were able to see firsthand how the cartel are paid, and wristbands are put and placed upon them to ensure that they have made payments and also track where they go across once they've crossed the border and are put into our communities. Shoes littered the river where we were at on our side, and you should have all received also a packet that kind of summarizes some of the pictures and the experience that we had. This is just the experience that I had with our local law enforcement, and so you should have had that handed out to you. But it illustrates a lot of the things that we saw outside of the hyperbole and the narrative just in the media to validate the concern of what's happening. The second category is health. Fentanyl and carfentanil are wreaking havoc on our communities, taking lives and devastating families. The opioid epidemic directly connects to trafficking and the border crisis as these drugs flood into our state. Trafficking individuals often suffer severe physical and mental health issues, placing a burden on local healthcare systems. TB rates are also increasing. While in Texas, we visited with a farmer who spent time on their ranches and listened to their experiences. One farmer had his dairy cows embargoed and destroyed due to the human strain of TB. That treatment did not cure. They were butchered and slaughtered. Third category, public safety. Organized crime, including cartels, profit off trafficking. They not only exploit people, but also destabilize communities through fear and violence. A lot of these images were taken and have a direct connection with the drug cartel. Local law enforcement on the border will tell you that the cartel run the Mexican border now. It is not the communities, it is the cartel that runs that. And there were situations and circumstances where the cartel, even on our side, were threatening our local law enforcement and telling them where to be when, or their families would be harmed. Missouri law enforcement faces significant challenges in identifying and prosecuting these crimes due to limited resources and the secretive nature of trafficking operations. We witnessed while down there a situation where Highway Patrol had somebody pulled over, and the cartel had long rifles on their dashboards, and they've got drones. They are militarized, and they could care less about our local law enforcement and what's happening to them. The local law enforcement present is not a concern to them because of this overwhelming amount of money that they're making and their networks. Why action matters. The Constitution charges us to ensure justice and protect our communities. Trafficking, crimes, drugs, etc. is thriving in the silent recesses of culture, tearing at the fabric of civility. This isn't just a problem, it's a moral imperative. It's morally imperative to strike a balance between the unresponsive federal government and the plight of our communities and law enforcement. It's important to note that while this language may change through conversations we are having, there is a population that is being harmed by the lack of conversation about the reality that now exists. So thank you for your hearing this legislation. I'm willing to take any questions.
Thank you, Senator. Does any senator have questions for the sponsor of the bill?
Of course.
Senator Washington, go ahead.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Senator. My first question is, how do we define aliens?
Well, I would say that that's somebody here that's here illegally that doesn't have a green
That's not
card.
in your bill.
There will be changes to the legislation, like I said a couple times. This language has been filed in 6 or 7 places.
I don't care nothing about all that.
And-
This Missouri, we're not even a border state. But I do want to say that I have, I don't have all of it anymore, but I live in one of the most diverse communities in America. So all of my residents, all of my refugees are aliens. And so this would allow for them to be removed after all the trauma that they've been through in life, because this is not well defined.
And so, Senator, like I said twice in the bill, so we didn't have this combative conversation, is that I'm very
We're going to have a combative conversation.
Perfect.
I'm black, and when my hair is curly, I look, we got to put you out if you do that.
Please, we need to have an adult
When my hair is
conversation
curly, I
on
look
this.
Mexican, so I'm scared to wear my natural hair now because of what's going on. But I'm not picking on you. I'm picking on your bill.
And you know that this is just a conversation that, again, we're just beginning to have. What is happening, Senator, is that I'm not going to sit here and ignore, due to the media, the conversation, the reality of a lot of the
And
crimes
are these
that are being
Missouri
perpetrated.
pictures? Are these in
This is
Missouri?
happening in Missouri. There were two people that were-
Are these photos, Senator, from Missouri?
These ones are from the border, but I can show you the pictures that are happening. I had constituents that were, there was a situation where 2 Honduran brothers who had been deported and came back over shot point blank in somebody in my district.
And I have
so-
officers who shot my constituents point blank in the back of the head. Should we treat them the same way? It's the same
I'm
thing.
not sure what you're talking
Because
about. or
what we're
your
doing
intent
is we're blaming a lot on the alien, on our, let me finish, on our undocumented. And the numbers prove that they actually have less crimes than those of us who are already
Well,
in
I would
America.
argue with you that they committed a crime by being over here illegally in the first place.
Well, my great-grandfather was over here legally too, but I used him and made him work for free.
And that's what's happening in some of these situations. So I'm not condoning that behavior. There needs to be a way that we all sit down and have this conversation. So that
what
isn't
is the,
happening.
so my point is, we, how are they supposed to get in legally? What should they
There's
do?
not a process to come here legally. My brother is.
Did you just say
Brazilian.
there's not a process?
Is there not? It was a question.
No, it's not, because on January the 20th, when number 40, 47 became the president, he shut down the actual app for the people to actually have their appointments. There were over 20,000 that were waiting for an appointment on the other side of the border.
They're not on the other side of the border. so-
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. Because as you have the cops too, my cousin was a chief down at the border, and he has a different story. I ain't protecting nobody. I don't want no criminals in here, period. I'm from Kansas City. Although I love my mafia lore, I understand that about criminals. I just don't want us being in a position that every single person who doesn't look like you gets arrested because they're supposedly a criminal.
And Senator, I don't think that's the intent of anyone here.
But that's what this bill
So
is.
we'll continue to have the conversation, but what I'm saying is there is groundwork here for discussion because you are.
But you brought a bill, so I don't like continuing to say groundwork here for discussion. If we were going to discuss it, we would already had a discussion. You would have talked to the 5 black people that are in this building to see what they may or may not have that affects them on this. So that's my
Well, that
first thing.
discussion
Let
can
me
happen
finish,
anyway.
please. It's my questions. Secondly, what are the dangers that we are experiencing in Missouri?
Well, I think our law enforcement can speak to that. So I will let them, they're here to testify, so I'll let them speak to that.
Okay. And why criminalize them? Why not just pick them up and ship them back?
Well, like I said, and if they're here committing a crime, that's the language that I am most
But you have made it a
aligned with.
crime to exist here. So let me tell you how this is going to have a problem. If I visit from, let me pick on somebody, Colombia, you're making it illegal for me to be here. You haven't identified what documents one needs to have. Let me finish. What the process is for one to identify whether they are or are not. And since you wanted to bring up other states, there are black people right now in New Jersey in jail with ICE who for 6 generations have been American. There are Puerto Ricans right now who just got picked up last week from ICE. Maybe some people don't know, but they are U.S. citizens. My daughter right now is afraid. She's on a cruise. She is currently right now paying $250 to straighten her hair so she can come back to America without someone thinking that she is of Hispanic nature. And I know that you don't know these things because that's not something that you personally have had to experience. But as a black person with mixed race,
I think it's pretty
do.
racist for you to sit there and say I don't have
It's-
experiences that
So how many times you been stopped because you black?
I
how
have
many
been stopped
times?
because I'm black, but I get stopped, and there's other reasons that I get stopped.
And
I've
how
been a
many people
minority.
in your family have
I
been
have
shot by the
been-
police?
I have been a
You do not
minority.
want to go there with me.
I'm not-
You're the same person that said people are only dying from maternal mortality because they on dope. But you've yet to ever give me some information on that. I didn't even want to go there. But you do not live in a community that experiences what my constituents experience. So please do not sit here and act like,
And
and
you don't
do
live in a-
not act like you have experienced anything that I have, or my mother, or my grandfather, who's the first free black person in my family, because you have not.
Senator,
And I
I'm not
wasn't
trying
going
to
there with you. I just want you to tell me why in Missouri we are worried about paying money to send our folks down to Texas when we got issues here with over 200,000 kids that are getting kicked off Medicaid. But we're going to spend money to send people down there to stop the Mexicans. I really don't even care if we stop the Mexicans. But my point is we got our own issues in Missouri, and this ain't our number one issue.
I totally agree. We have issues in Missouri, and that's why we're bringing this up and having the conversation, because it is bleeding into our communities and impacting our communities. So when my school gets a letter that says that they're going to have to accommodate 230 something refugees, which is not a problem if they're here, right, through the right process.
That's what a refugee is. So
the
look
right-
that up. A refugee is here legally. They were brought here because that is why they're called refugees.
Then we're not going to have a problem with them, are we, Senator?
But that's not in your bill. Your bill says alien. So alien includes the refugees. It includes anybody.
That definition, that lexicon was changed at the federal level to broaden that.
No,
That-
the
yes, it
federal
has.
bills, the federal statutes still call for refugees. They even say resident alien. You don't have anything in here that differentiates somebody. This means that I got to carry my social security card and my birth certificate, which I have been doing everywhere I go. And I don't like to yell at you because I love you to death and you know that. But I need you to be open-minded enough to understand what this actually does.
And I need you to be open in mind enough to realize that what you're accusing me of is not the
I
intent
haven't
of what we're
accused
doing.
you. This
You
is
are.
your
You're sitting there
statute.
right there yelling, saying
Because
that
you just tried to compare your experience with mine, and there's no way in heaven, hell, that you should ever say that
I'm
out your
not saying that I
mouth.
did. I said I have had similar
No,
experiences.
you have not. You have never, ever not been able to live somewhere because you black. Been picked up because you black. Been told, even though you have the top 20% of your LSAT, that you only got in because you black. You have never been told none of that. And let me just say this. I literally am only 60% black. But you have never had to experience that. You can wake up tomorrow. You are no matter what your race is, I don't even know, but you appear white and you will never have the same issues that I have. My sister don't even have what I have because she appears, she's lighter.
Senator, all I am saying is there are other people that have had some kind of experience, okay? So maybe I should have made that clear delineation.
Are these people of color? Do they have some melanin in their skin?
It's all kinds of people. So when I'm down there living on the border, I am a minority, am I not?
But you're you're a minority by population. First of all, you're a minority in America anyway, but you are a minority by population, but you're not a minority by power. Because when you go down there, my cousin was the chief. He black as tar. He the only black person in the whole police department. The rest of them were white.
What's the way to reel this in and actually bring it back to the reality of what these people are facing as well?
To bring me some statistics that show what has happened in our state. And I'm not saying that now if you was talking about Kansas, girl, I'm so far with you. I am. Because most of our Mexican drug dealers live in Kansas, thank the Lord. So if you bring me some statistics where it is showing the danger to our citizens and that these are only undocumented folks, because the way this reads, this is everybody who's not white.
So when we meet again...
Well, you're going to give me the numbers, the statistics this time, because I'm still waiting on them ones from when you first got elected. You've
Senator,
never,
I came to your
ever,
office a couple...
no, but you've never brought me any numbers.
So we can sit here and hash and debate back and forth on... Is that what we want to take up?
No, I want you to actually bring me the proof. I don't care what's going on in Texas. I don't. I'm a black person. You know, the black people in Texas were slaves longer than everybody else in America because nobody forgot. They forgot to tell them.
The reason why it matters, Senator, is because what is going on down there is impacting.
So I want to see that. I just want to see where it's impacting Missouri.
Well, like I said, I can show you my district and the deaths that have occurred and the people that are.
And they have been arrested and they are undocumented. You have proven that they've been arrested, they've been charged, and they've been found guilty.
To come and pick them up. Yes.
Picking me up don't mean I got found guilty.
Those are two different processes, and so the jurisdiction, right? So I'll let the prosecutor speak to this as well because they will weigh in on this. But it is an issue, and so
just bring me the stats, bring me the statistics that show that they are there, and then bring me the how much money this going to cost Missouri. Thank you.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none. First person to testify in favor of the bill, please step forward. You have 2 minutes. We have on a specific timer. We have several bills we need to hear today. And so just know that you're going to be cut off at 2 minutes. First person in favor of Senate Bill 58. Make sure you fill out a witness form for our records. Proceed when you're ready.
Retired for 2, so I couldn't tell you.
5, then go back 5.
So here's one of the problems we have, and we had a hearing last year on this. There's nothing on our arrest records and our forms that says are you a citizen or you are not.
Ours do in Kansas City. Why don't yours?
No, our Missouri's doesn't. So booking.
But no, I live in Kansas City, Missouri. You know, all of us up here live in Missouri.
Booking sheets don't have are you a citizen or not. Fingerprint cards do not have are you a citizen or not. So it's hard to track.
Oh, I don't know, because I'm a personal injury attorney, and it helps me a lot because it is on our police reports. That's how I know whether or not I'm actually filed a lawsuit, because I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but usually if you're an undocumented immigrant and you have an accident, a lot of times you may not have any insurance. So I'm not sure why yours is different, but I understand. So we don't really know what the number of crimes they've committed is?
To give you an exact number, no.
Okay, and we don't know the results of those being arrested, like how many are prosecuted or whatever?
I can give you 5 cases that I know of. When
Five
I
out of
was-
how many? How many?
I don't know how many, but that we know were illegal aliens that were in our town.
And how do you
in the
know
city of
that?
Roanoke, because they said they were.
Okay. Did they say that in English?
I don't know.
Do you know what language they speak?
I have no idea.
Do you speak another language?
No English.
Thank
no
you.
English.
Thanks for being here, for real.
Further questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you, sir, for your testimony.
you.
All right, 2 minutes for somebody in opposition. And I would also ask supporters and those in opposition to not regurgitate the same talking points. If you have written testimony, you can email that to the committee. That would be super helpful. We would distribute it to everybody on the committee. So we'd take the opposition, somebody in opposition to Senate Bill 68. Hop up here, make sure you fill out a witness form for us, and appreciate you being here.
Hello, Chairman. Hello, Committee. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Ben Molina. I am the chair of Hispanic Leaders Group. We are an advocacy organization based out of St. Louis. I brought here with you a written letter that I'd like to submit for testimony from a number of Hispanic organizations who are very concerned about this bill, as well as Senate Bill 72, which will be heard later, including the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Metropolitan St. Louis, the International Institute of St. Louis, Hispanic Bar Association, Hispanic Festival Inc., Latinx Arts Network, and STL Juntos. These are all organizations who have been reached out to because there's a lot of concerns in the community about the types of legislation that's being put out, including Senate Bill 58. There's a lot of fear in the community. There's a lot of confusion because, similar to the conversation that was had, there's not enough information about what is being put out and the bills that are being presented. Specifically talking about Senate Bill 58, I want to make it abundantly clear that the majority of immigrants in this country and in our state are here legally. These are individuals that work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute significantly to Missouri's economy. But this legislation proposes to use state funds to target small minority of individuals, those without documentation, further criminalizing them at the state level. It's important to remember that the current federal administration is already dedicating immense resources to securing the border and addressing immigration enforcement. Those are federal responsibilities, not state ones. Missouri's tax dollars should not be used to fund redundant initiatives that serve to further vilify individuals who are often fleeing hardships, seeking safety, and looking for opportunity to contribute to our communities. This bill serves to divert valuable resources away from Missourians, issues that impact Missourians like education, infrastructure, supporting local business. But beyond that, I think we have to consider the humanity of these individuals. These are people who are working hard, who have lived in the United States for the most part for over 10 years, paying into Social Security, paying into Medicare through their payroll taxes, knowing that they will never be able to actually use those funds. So to enact laws that criminalize them further in the state of Missouri sends a message that Missouri prioritizes punishment over compassion, division over unity, and fear over facts. And this does not only impact undocumented individuals, this also impacts the documented individuals who do not feel safe and welcome in Missouri, because to this date we have not had policy to welcome and attract immigrants who are authorized to live here to Missouri.
Thank you, sir. Anybody have any questions for this witness? Senator for Washington.
I have
go
a
ahead.
couple questions. I don't want the senator to think I was just picking on her, because I do know we have a lot of undocumented. Is there any other country that you are aware of that allows you to come in undocumented and stay as long as you want to?
I am not sure.
Okay.
Could you give me an example?
None. That would be I don't think there are any that allow you to overstay your visa legally. Even overstay your visa if you came in legally. I think we have a dude, he's a billionaire, he overstayed his and he's still here, but we're not bothering him. And he definitely overstayed for about 10 years. But all of those organizations that you mentioned, what help are they doing? What are they doing to help the undocumented folks become documented?
So these are all nonprofit organizations that provide a variety of services to the community regardless of status, helping people start small businesses, helping those that are authorized to vote, helping them understand their rights, celebrating their culture from wherever country they come from, celebrating the arts. So these are organizations that have constituents that are really contributing to the United States and Missouri regardless of their status.
But my question is, what are you doing to help them become legal?
Nothing, because we are not immigration attorneys.
So you don't, because I live in Kansas City, and I noticed you didn't mention any Kansas City organizations. So our resettlement organizations for folks, they do have immigration attorneys, whether they pay them or whether they are willing to volunteer to address the issues of making sure that people who do have a business or people who are wanting their children to go to school or whatever the case may be, they will hire immigration attorneys to push them through. And so I think all of those things that you said are great. All those things are wonderful. But I do agree with the senator that we do need to make sure, even though my people didn't come here, I don't know what you call us. But if we take away birthright citizenship, obviously I can't stay. But I think you do have to be in a position to make sure that they are following the laws. So it can't just be, oh, we're going to have a Puerto Rican, well, not Puerto Rican because I'm not the president. I know that they're part of us. But we're going to have a Colombian festival, or we're going to, recreate the Mardi Gras Brazil or whatever was a carnival. We also have to make sure that we're not putting these people at risk as a nonprofit organization. And I think you are, if we're concentrating on helping them with their culture. You said helping them start a business. That's not even legal because they're not resident aliens. They don't have naturalized citizenship or whatever the case may be. So I definitely think that you should put some focus on whether you're a nonprofit or not. You get grants, you get money, legal aid will help them. I would say that you spend some efforts on that. And if you have some issues, you can contact my office and we can refer you to the Jewish Vocational Centers, Della Lamb, and the other organizations in Kansas City that do just that.
No, Senator, I appreciate that. And just to be clear, while there are organizations here that help individuals, access immigration attorneys, I think what I'm here to say is that this is a federal issue, and to invest state funds to track and criminalize immigrants is not a good use of our funds. And I am also not here saying that we should allow undocumented immigrants who are criminals to just live and access all of our services here in Missouri. There should be consequences for people who are breaking the law, who are undocumented, as well as those who are documented. So I just want to be clear that this is a federal issue that has been brought to the state level multiple times on different occasions, and we should not use local resources to do that.
Thank you.
Further questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 58? Seeing,
The sheriffs are out there in the hall. There's no room.
yeah, you want to grab some if you need to really quick. Hello. Gentlemen, proceed when you're ready. You have 2 minutes on the stand. If you can fill out a witness form for our records, I'd appreciate it, and go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is David Parrish. I'm with the Lewis County Sheriff's Office in Northeast Missouri. I am here on behalf of Missouri Sheriffs United, and we are in support of this legislation. We feel that this legislation will simply give law enforcement another tool in the toolbox to help us assist any of our federal partners or anyone who may be in our state illegally. Thank you.
Sheriff.
Yes, my name is Matt Stewart, Sheriff from Newton County in the southwest part of the state. Again, I'd like to echo what the Sheriff said. We're in support of this bill to help us with the public safety aspect of our community and make sure we're able to provide a safe community to our residents.
A question for either one of you. What are some things you're seeing that are concerning that would make you want to support legislation like this?
I think for me,
You can speak in the mic. Sorry,
Sorry.
we're streaming it live so people can have access to it.
I think for most sheriffs in the state, I can speak for, I think the main issue for us is that when we do come across individuals who are committing illegal acts, besides just being someone who has not followed the rules to enter our country, our main concern is that we are not sure what to do with some of these folks who are committing crimes, and sometimes the federal agencies are not able to help us in a very timely manner, and so sometimes these people are left in our communities and have committed further crimes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, one important part of this bill is to make sure they're being held accountable for crimes they're committing in our communities. In the past, they would commit a crime, we would then turn them over to immigration to be, deported, but there's really no way to know whether that truly happened or not, and if they're remaining in our community. And we ask our citizens to be held accountable for the crimes they commit, and I think those that are here illegally should be held accountable for those crimes as well.
Okay. Any other questions for the witness? Senator Washington. Go
Hi,
ahead.
thank you. Thank you both sheriffs for being here. I know you traveled a little bit. I want to follow up on Senator Chairman's question, and I didn't hear what the actual crimes that you're experiencing in your communities. I didn't hear either of you say what those actually are.
On my level, we have an area where there's a dairy farm, and there are several folks who are here legally or here under the rules of our government. There are others that are not here legally. The latest one was a man who resisted arrest by fleeing. He had also threatened his family members with a knife, and those are the types of things that he is currently incarcerated under Missouri statutes. We have been in contact with our federal partners about this person, and he continues to remain in our jail. That's one story. Most of the things that we are talking about and why this bill we feel will be useful is it will help us with those types of folks, but we have no intention of sending our deputies out just to look for people who may or may not be illegal immigrants. We're here to protect all of our citizens.
So that guy, that story that you told me that had the issue with his wife, which is absolutely terrible. But you did mention something I wanted to bring up. He is currently in your jail.
Yes, ma'am.
So he's been charged with a crime.
That's right.
And so he will be prosecuted.
Right.
And under the Missouri law, if he is convicted and has if he is convicted, and has a sentence, he will serve that time in one of the Department of Corrections facilities, correct?
That's right.
And then he will have to go back to wherever he's from, correct?
I believe so.
Okay, and if he is found not guilty, because his status has been found to be illegal, he will still have to go back, is that correct?
It's my understanding, but I'm not sure that happens every time. And Senator,
So I don't know why it doesn't happen where you all are. My family from the country, and there's a whole lot of Mexicans down there, and I know my food finna go up because they scared to go to work. But and I'm a criminal defense attorney, so I've represented people. I had a couple of Middle Easterns. In fact, I had a Middle Eastern client that did exactly what your story said, and he knew he had to go home. It was just a matter of when he was going home, because he did commit the crime of domestic violence, and he knew he had to go home. Didn't want to go back, but he knew that. So I'm not quite sure why things happen or seeming to be different. And I've practiced in almost every county in my 30 years, and I go to courtrooms, especially up north, and it's full of folks that don't look like the majority of the residents that I'm more familiar with in those communities, but they're in that courtroom and they are in custody, and they are sent back after because America ain't gonna let you go home till we get our time out of you. So going to that, how much does it cost for us to incarcerate them before we send them home? I'm okay with sending them home. I just don't want to spend a whole lot of money to do it.
Well, I think that's one of the frustrations that we have as sheriffs is that it is very difficult to incarcerate and to pay for those incarcerations, as we have been here numerous times to discuss.
Because we don't pay y'all money.
The per diem that we
Yeah,
pay
we don't give
them.
you, I totally agree.
And so one of the concerns then is that with this person who's already in the country illegally, how much of our resources should we use, or would they be better used with our federal partners to have that person be returned sooner?
Okay, and then my next question is this. This creates this creates a state crime of improper entry. So just being here, how will you all prove that they're here legally or illegally? Because what you mentioned, which is odd to me, is you had some folks, did you say they were working at a farm?
Yes, ma'am.
But it didn't sound to me like you was going to arrest the farm owner. And so that's like a whole nother issue to get into. Senator, you and I can talk about that, but they can't get no job if somebody don't hire them. But let me go back to, how are we going to prove that they are actually illegal immigrants? And thank you for not saying aliens.
Ma'am, I think that would be a very interesting issue for law enforcement because of the potential for civil rights violations. I think that in law enforcement, the last thing we want to do is to encroach upon someone's civil rights who's here legally.
We don't have civil rights no more. You know that, right? The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was set aside last week by the president.
Well,
I'm not trying to be funny. It really was. I don't think he legally did it, but he did do an executive order to do away with something that has been going on since Martin Luther King was alive.
we understand with our own constituents how important it is for us to treat everyone fairly.
Thank you.
And we do not expect that we will be traveling about looking for people who may or may not be illegal immigrants. This is part of our everyday enforcement. And so if those enforcement things come up and you are someone who is an illegal immigrant, this will give us a useful tool that we can use to help keep our communities safe. I don't expect, and I think it's a fair question, about we don't want our deputies being out just looking for those kinds of things. That's not what we're here for.
Have you read the bill?
I have.
Okay, and would you agree that some of this bill does allow just that,
I believe
for
so.
folks to just go out and look? I have some Mexicans on my block because I chose to live in the hood, which is where I grew up. And Senator, I'm apologize for yelling at you, but I'm gonna give you an example of why I know what I've had to go through and you haven't. My mother was a widow at 23. My mother gives a Middle Eastern appearance. God rest her soul, and that is because she is mixed race. But she couldn't buy a house. She was 23. It was 1950 something. She couldn't buy a house. So my grandfather had to play like he was her husband and use the name of my then 3-year-old brother. Of course, I wasn't alive. So those neighborhoods have become dilapidated. So I chose to buy a house and rehab it. And on my block are about 6 Mexican families who have done the same thing. They have bought a house for cheap. They have rehabbed the homes. I should have had them working on my house, but I haven't seen them since the first of the year. And Saturday I got back to Kansas City about 5 a.m. and it was a police car on my block. And I'm not of Hispanic race, but I am Native American, African American, and black and white. And I was afraid. And I'm serious. I was really afraid because if my hair is in its natural state, I do give an appearance that I could be from somewhere else. Not to me, but and I had some arguments when I go on vacation about what I am, and I do not speak Spanish like that. But I think there's some tweaking that would need to be done so that we don't have people that are so afraid that they don't send their kids to school, that they don't go to work. I mean, we know that that's happening everywhere now as they're not going to work, and we're not punishing those who are providing the opportunity for them to stay here. If I'm a farmer or a manufacturing company, Tyson, and I'm hiring them, then I'm not getting in trouble, but they are. And so I just think that there's some things that have to be worked out, because the way this reads is anybody can be stopped by any officer in the state and questioned. And because we know, since we're bringing up other states, we know that there are 4 states right now where there are Americans in ICE custody. They are U.S. citizens, always have been. Their parents was born in America, and because of the color of their skin or their appearance, they have been picked up as illegal aliens, and they are not. So I appreciate both of you all coming here. Appreciate you telling me what type of crimes that you have too. Didn't hear any fentanyl, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Further questions? Senator Gregory.
Briefly. Gentlemen, when you all make a traffic stop or something of those sorts, you have an interaction with a citizen, person, whatever you want, enter their name or driver's license number if they have one. Is there anything that pops up that says any reference to legal citizen? Like, how's that work? Like, if you were to pull over someone that wasn't a citizen, what comes up on the screen whenever you enter their name in?
So basically, somebody that's doesn't have a driver's license or is not.
Just say they don't have a driver's license. They give you a name. You know, they spell it out for you. You go punch that in. What comes up on the screen?
Well, so it depends. If they've never been in trouble, never been entered in the system, you're not going to get anything. You won't get any kind of return back on them, which tells you one of two things. One, they're either giving you false information, giving you a false name, false date of birth, false social security number, something that's not matching what's in the system, or they've just never been registered in the system either through a driver's license or some kind of criminal history.
So, say for instance, I'm 17-year-old Curtis Gregory. I'm a rebel. I've yet to get my driver's license. I'm driving to school. I get pulled over and I say, hey, here's my name and everything. And I give you my name at that point in time. Would I show up then in some way, shape, or form since I've got a birth certificate or something? Or how would that work for... Or would I show up as nothing?
You'd show up if you had a driver's license or a prior traffic summons or something to do with law enforcement. Then you would show up, but outside of that, you would not show up.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions? Senator Washington,
Real
go
quick.
ahead.
So I want you to, Sheriff from Newton, I want to just clarify. Even if I'm an American citizen, if I've never had a driver's license, never been in trouble with the law, you pull me over, I don't have a license, which is a crime in and of itself,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
you should take them on. But I don't have a license or any proof. I'm not showing up even if I'm American, right?
If
I've
you-
never had a ticket, never been in trouble. You pull me over, I've never had a license. When you punch my name in, I'm giving you the right name, nothing shows up, correct?
If we run by name and date of birth, most likely not. However, if you run by social security number, you may get a hit on that with some information, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And in fact, in Missouri, once you've gotten in trouble, even if you don't have a driver's license, the Department of Revenue has given you a number so that you can be tracked, right, for all of your future criminal activity.
I'm not sure if they've given you a number.
Yes,
or
they
not,
do.
but-
They give you a number,
Okay.
so that they know how to track you for when you eventually come and ask for a license, and we can tell you that you have 27 points and you're not going to get one. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? I will ask the folks that are visiting or anybody in the committee room, please shut your phones off or put them on silent so we can focus on the hearing. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Appreciate your testimony. Please leave witness forms. Anybody else here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 58? Come on forward.
I have a quick question before doing it. I also want to testify for the SB72. Is any problem to testify in this one? And
Yeah, we'll put it in the record as testimony for both. That'd be fine.
Dear committee, my name is Germán González Herrera. I am from González Herrera Law Firm. I have been practicing immigration law for 7 years. I am from Colombia and a U.S. citizen. I came on behalf of my clients who are concerned about the Senate Bill 58 and the Senate Bill 72. Many of my clients are being represented in immigration court. Others are applying for different kind of visas. It is difficult to determine if the person is documented or undocumented in so many times. For example, when people is applying for a visa, a U visa, they cannot have any kind of documents until around 5 or at least or 10 years without have any documents to prove that he is applying for a U visa. My clients are very concerned because they are profiling. These bills are creating offenses of improper entry and aggravated illegal presence, or offering bounties for reporting undocumented immigrants. This leads to several risks, including community chaos, incentivizing criminal behavior like extortion, and fostering a climate where even murder might occur due to vigilante actions. This policy could lead to wrongful confrontations and detentions, affecting not only undocumented immigrants, but also U.S. citizens, legal residents, and immigrants who are defending their cases in immigration court. As I stated, many of those are very difficult to know if they're documented or undocumented. ICE has made mistakes, big mistakes in detaining people that has documents. You can just even imagine a person that does not have any knowledge of immigration law. Cases in Missouri and New Jersey exemplifying the dangers where individuals were kidnapped or detained based on mere suspicions or Russian profiling. Legally, the 8th Circuit decision in United States versus the state of Iowa, that this just came last week, underlines the conflict between state and federal authority on immigration. They state that state actions pose obstacles to the federal government. Also, there is a potential legal repercussions for states through 42 U.S.C. 1983, which address civil rights violations. Economically, these policies could cause significant disruptions, driving immigrants away, creating labor shortages, and dressing economic activity. It is important to protect the community at large, but these kinds of bills is not the way. I invite you to meet with immigration attorneys, immigrants advocates, which can shed light on how we can protect the community at large.
Sir.
In conclusion, these bills threaten community trust, erode civil liberties, and could lead to significant economic and legal repercussions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 58? Anybody here to continue testifying in opposition to the bill? Hop up quick. We're going to start going through the opposition. Is there anybody else? You have 2 minutes. What's that? Nobody popped up for in favor. We'll go back to it.
I'll fill this out.
Check out there to see if anybody's out there.
I have one in my bag. I will drop it here before I leave. Let me fill that
Go ahead.
online.
Go ahead when you're ready.
I'm going to go ahead for 58, and 72.
Great. Yeah, if you can do 58, 72, if you're
Yeah,
here
and
for
then I'll get out
both,
of your
just
hair.
go
Not a
ahead
problem,
and
sir.
throw
Thank
them
you
there.
so much. I appreciate you all being here. My name is Laura Green. Start. Missouri SB72 is abhorrently in violation of multiple constitutional amendments regarding safety, security, and human rights for both immigrants as well as citizens. My concerns regarding this bill are neither based on emotion or conspiracy, but on the legal precedent and constitutional expectations of the United States. Article 4 of the Bill of Rights promises protection of home without search and with no probable cause. The hotline and reporting system that is suggested in this bill puts families that are citizens and anybody that could be determined to not fit what people want them to look like at risk for what I'd consider to be swatting. So I see this hotline as a state-funded swatting bill. Article 8 protects against cruel and unusual punishment based on the international database compiled by the Library of Congress. This suggested punishment is a stark outlier and can be considered cruel and unusual punishment to have a lifetime imprisonment for the crime of trespass. Additionally, this is going to be a civil rights violation for children being imprisoned. The bill is pretty vague. It doesn't have any age constrictions. It doesn't talk about what happens to children who don't have documentation. Additionally, it doesn't talk about what happens to children whose parents are taken away and they're left without parents. All this is in violating the 14th Amendment and the right of due process by allowing only 24 hours for the federal government to step in, which is not true due process. My final question is, where is all the money coming from for these immigrants that will be held? Where are the detention centers that will be held? Our prisons are already overrun with criminals that are being held and are also being used for forced labor at very low cost to, like our senator stated, like Tyson. So I want to know where are we going to house them, and additionally, who's going to be paying for what I assume their forced labor would be. I would like to know if you guys have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them. That's all I have to say.
Good job on time.
Thank you.
Well done. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Does anybody else here testify in favor of this bill? There's nobody outside? Okay. Anybody else here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 58?
Hello. I come to you as an illegal immigrant myself. And I just want to say that these bills, like both of them, they're fucking, oh, I can't curse right. They are,
Excuse me, I'm really sorry, but you can't use foul language. We're
Yeah,
going to
I'm
try to
sorry.
keep decorum if you could. We'd
Yes.
appreciate it.
they are crazy. Anyways, as a illegal immigrant myself too, I have 3 jobs and I do pay taxes. How many jobs do you have?
Please
I
don't.
can't.
Please
No?
don't
Okay.
question the sponsor of the bill.
And then, yeah, like, it's not a right bill, it's not human, and it's just really cruel.
Okay. Have you filled out a witness form?
No. No.
Okay. Any questions for this witness? Senator Washington, go ahead.
Where are you from?
Mexico,
Okay. How long you been here?
25 years.
Okay. Is there a reason why you haven't started your immigration process?
Oh, no, I already started, but illegal people are not gonna say anything because they're afraid to come here.
Okay. And you have started your process to.
I have a green card.
Oh, you do have a green card, so that means you're not illegal.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were stopped by the police, would they ask you for the green card, or would they ask you for your driver's? Do you have a driver's license?
Yeah, I haven't been stopped, but before, they would just ask me for the license and stuff.
Okay. So but you do have a driver's license, and so you're not an illegal immigrant as
No.
it stands today, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just got it this year, thank God. after
Okay.
this
And
reelection.
were your you came here with your parents as a young person?
Yes.
Okay. And you said you had a lot of jobs. Could you tell us where you work?
Well, I just moved here in Missouri, and then I saw this bill passing, so then I had to say something. But I lived in New York and Connecticut.
Okay. And you work here in Missouri?
No, I just moved here.
Okay. But you do plan to work?
Yes.
Where do you live?
I live
What city?
at the base in Noster.
Oh, okay.
The white man.
Okay. Are you married?
Yes.
Okay. Is your husband a American-born person?
Yes.
Thank you.
And if you want us to put your testimony on the record in opposition, you have to fill out a witness form and hand it in to us so we can put that in the records.
Okay.
Any other questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to testify in opposition?
This one?
Yep. Anybody else here to testify in the other room? Yeah. Yeah, they can, there's enough seats over here. They can start coming in here and sit down.
Oh, and we are Native Americans. I took a DNA test.
All right, we're taking opposition for Senate Bill 58 at the moment. Is anybody else here to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 58? If you're here to testify in opposition, hop up here. If you're waiting on Senate Bill 72, we're not on that hearing yet, but you can lodge opposition to both at the same time. It will help us streamline some of the process later.
So it is different.
Though it is different, they're different bills. So proceed when you're ready, and you have a 2-minute timer. Appreciate your time.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Dr. Guillermo Villatrueva for the Missouri Catholic Conference, representing all 4 Roman Catholic dioceses in the state. And we would like to go in on the record in opposition of both Senate Bill 58 and Senate Bill 52. we've been talking a lot about Senate Bill 58, especially about the first section, but I think that we've missed the most concerning part, which in our opinion is the third section, which is the offense of aggravated illegal presence. Because if codified, that offense would turn an undocumented migrant who has committed a minor violation into a Class E felon. So putting that into perspective real quick, Class E felons are punishable by up to 4 years in prison and usually result in sentences of 3.4 years, 2 of those in prison per the fiscal note. And examples of felonies like that include manslaughter in the second degree, stalking in the first degree, sexual contact with a student, and domestic assault in the third degree. So what would trigger this felony? Well, the bill is extremely broad. It says any violation of Missouri law. That means that if an undocumented migrant drives without a license, runs a red light, or practices as a barber without a state license, he or she could be looking at 4 years in prison. So we believe that this is not reasonable, and this is not proportionate. And the Catholic Church acknowledges the right of each country to regulate its borders and to control immigration as long as it is done with justice and mercy. But neither of these bills are just or merciful. And because of time concerns, I will just let the other witnesses engage with Senate Bill 72. But if you have any questions for me as a representative of the Missouri Catholic Conference, please feel free to ask them.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for testimony.
Thank you.
Yeah, and again, if you're done testifying, if you would step out to let other people come in and testify that would like to, we'd appreciate it. And this is all live streamed, so you can listen to it online just to make sure there's transparency. Thank you for your testimony. Yeah, just leave it right there for our records. Anybody else here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 58? Anybody else? Hop up here. Just make sure you fill out a witness form. They're on the table there. The senator can help you get one if you need one.
Want to say her?
That's fine. Nice, I have been.
Proceed when you're ready. Ready?
Nice catch. Okay, that's fine. My name's Ashley Hicks. I'm here to testify against because I am Latina, half American. My kids come from an immigrant. I come from an immigrant. And I have witnessed getting pulled over because of the color of my skin. I have witnessed a person dying because people want to wait to call the ambulance, to call the ICE first and let a person die. So I don't think it's fair for people to just automatically get pulled over and get arrested. I don't think it's fair. Because I have witnessed it because of my color, twice got pulled over, automatically getting asked if I have weapons in my vehicle because of the color of my skin, or because of the person that's with me. My kids constantly have to go through it, and it's not fair just because of who we are. I have family that are scared right now, and it's not fair. It's not fair to watch my family suffer because of all of this. It's not fair that I had to watch a family member die and have to call his family in Mexico to tell them, your brother's dead, because they prefer to call ICE instead of calling an ambulance. It's not fair. If it was one of us, they would have automatically got help. Instead, they let this person die to wait for ICE to come for 30 minutes. Tell me, is that fair? To let somebody die because they want ICE to get there first? Is that right? Because I know I didn't like to have to call their family to tell them he was dead. I know I didn't like to get pulled over because of the color of my skin on the way to help my ex-husband to get his passport, to get illegal and get pulled over. And him risking getting arrested just because he didn't have his documents, just because of the color of his skin. So that's what we're gonna do. Judge people by the color of their skin. Let them die. so that ICE can get there. And I don't say it because I've seen it. I say it because I lived it. I've seen it.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 58? Come on up here. If you're going to testify in opposition, just be ready to pop up and we'll go in order. Please make sure you fill out a witness form and leave it for our records, and you have 2 minutes. Proceed. Sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Proceed when you're ready.
One. Oh, thank you, sir. Just a second.
Hello. Most of what I prepared has already been said, so I'm just going to go a little off the cuff, so forgive me if it's not very eloquent. Fentanyl was brought up by this bill's sponsor. According to the DEA, 80-some-odd%, I don't remember the exact figure, but I can get it to you all, of fentanyl seized by the U.S. law enforcement at the border or near the border has been seized from United States citizens who are passing through ports of entry, not crossing illegally. And I think it was 0.009% of undocumented people that were caught near the border had any fentanyl on them at all. So this bill will do nothing to stop the flow of fentanyl to our state. Criminalizing being undocumented in Missouri is not going to stop drug or human smuggling. Is not. It's just going to lead to, as you've heard, racial profiling. People are going to get pulled over because of the way that they look, or if they get pulled over for some other reason, if they do not look like me, or sound like me, or fluently speak the language that I speak, they're going to be questioned further than me or pretty much anyone on this committee would be. In case you are not aware, being undocumented in the United States is not a crime, it's actually a civil violation. So by definition, being undocumented does not make you a criminal. I am curious about how this bill would be implemented without using racial profiling. The sheriff told that story about the domestic abuser who is now incarcerated. This law would have done nothing to keep him from doing that. He was picked up, the system worked, he is now incarcerated. The only way that this can be implemented is by judging people based off how they look. We also don't know if someone was undocumented when they entered our state. There's no way to know that, as many undocumented people come here legally and overstay. Let's see. I think that is all that I had, except for I would also like to point out that nobody who testified in support of this bill had any numbers or statistics that they could refer to. So please keep that in mind. Again, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I've testified on this before. Undocumented people commit crimes at a 30% lower rate than United States citizens. So please keep that in mind when considering this law. Thank you.
You for your testimony. Can you identify yourself too, by the way, for
I'm
our
so
records?
sorry. Yes, I totally forgot. My name is Rachel Pozo. I work at Immigrant Home English Learning Program in St. Louis, and I am testifying on their behalf.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Senator Weber, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Briefly, thank you for being here. We have a lot of, obviously, bills on immigration. I'm sure that's going to be a dominant topic for the next few months. So you said something I think was really important that I just want to make sure I understand and make sure we all
Yes.
understand. It'd be helpful, while this is a contentious issue, that we all at least try to start out on the same page. And you mentioned, and I think you're correct, but I want you to elaborate on that being in the country undocumented is not a crime. It's a civil infraction. And can you elaborate on that point?
Yes. So as I understand it, and I'm not an attorney, being undocumented is a civil violation and not a crime. Crossing the border irregularly without inspection, that is a misdemeanor. But many people who are undocumented today came here legally and overstayed their visas. And those people, by law, are not criminal.
And my understanding, tell me, for part of the reason for that is that if in America, if you are accused of a crime, that you have a right to public defender. And so the government will pay for an attorney for you if you can't provide one for yourself. But that's not true for civil infractions. And so maybe my understanding, at least, is that part of that is by design. So that way the people are not guaranteed any sort of legal representation.
I don't know enough about that to speak to it, but I would not be surprised.
Okay, and I just appreciate that because, like I said, this is going to be a contentious issue. I know we're going to talk about this for several months. It's helpful if we all start out on the same page.
Absolutely.
And so, an understanding of what we're talking about being a civil infraction and then being, as was mentioned by a previous witness, suddenly turning into a 4-year mandatory jail sentence for speeding while committing a civil infraction, I think is an important thing to point out. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 58? Come on up.
Ma'am, do I
Oh.
leave this with you? Do I leave this with you? Oh, thank you.
Please make sure you fill out a witness form for our records and proceed when you're ready.
Do I sit here? Okay. So, I am an American. I may not look like the idea of what an American looks like in some people's minds, but I became a U.S. citizen 8 years ago. I was an immigrant. I was born in Nicaragua, the youngest of 9 brothers and sisters. I came to the U.S. when I was 5 years old, after my mother had left me at the age of 1 because our country had become a place of war and an extreme communist regime. My mother came to America with a dream of peace. She risked her life to search for a better life for her children. The same better life that some of your Irish, German, and European immigrant ancestors came here to find. My dad was a taxi driver who had friends that had rebelled against that regime. One of those friends was shot in front of our home. Since my parents knew him, they labeled the front of my, They labeled the front of my childhood home with the word "traitors live here." My mom left Nicaragua to set out to find a place she was told was built by immigrants and welcomed them, the United States of America. And now, if this bill was to continue further than an idea, it would destroy the safety of anyone that looks different. My friends, my family, and children could be labeled as not human enough to live in peace. The misperception of all immigrants being criminals that are here to steal anything from Americans would haunt us every day through providing a bounty hunter program. It would be inhumane to say that human beings deserve to be hunted like a sport. It would turn neighbors against neighbors and friends against each other. I am here to speak for some of those who can't come here because they are living in fear during these times where they are being attacked. You said you wanted to get rid of criminals in Missouri, but at the same time, you want to make those that have not committed crimes into federal criminals that will be charged with aggravated illegal presence. All this means is anyone could be suspected of being here illegally who looks different. It could be someone like my mother, who has raised me to believe in God and to treat others with kindness and love. It could be someone who pays taxes without asking for a handout or works 12-hour days to provide for his family. We're not all criminals. We have the same values that Americans have, and we live with respect for one another. Please don't allow these anti-immigrant state bills to pass, as they are also anti-human.
Thank you, ma'am. Are you here in opposition to Senate Bill 72 or both? Both. Okay.
Both.
They're different bills, but appreciate your testimony. Thank you for being here. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you, ma'am. Further testimony in opposition to Senate Bill 58. Come on up. Hop on up. Also, I think what's going to happen, because we have to end by 3:45 because session starts at 4. We'll probably recess. So I would imagine we're going to stay on the illegal immigration bills until we're done with those. So that anybody here for SEPA, you may want to. It will probably be after session when we come back to committee, just so you're aware that we'll probably hear that after session. So you all don't have to, I made you sit around long enough here, but just wanted to see if we couldn't get there to it. But it's probably going to be after session. So you can stay around in here or just know that it's going to be in a little while. Proceed when you're ready.
Hi, my name is Michael Dunn. I'm a local church pastor ordained with the Christian Church Disciples of Christ in North America and Canada. I'm here to oppose 58 and also 72. 58, to me, just the whole language of aggravated illegal presence. The vast majority are not present here in any kind of aggravated way. And they make really great contributions, and it's not illegal to exist. And so to make presence an aggravated offense, to me, is blatantly wrong. I also would want to say about the bounty program of Senate Bill 72, that it really sets up pitting citizens against each other, increasing further divides, and we really need to find a better way to deal with the problems that are really there. It increases the potential for violence and lawbreaking. It also appeals to the worst parts of our humanity. We should feel ashamed that we are even considering a bounty program for anything like this. There was also the language of a moral imperative tossed around, and part of what I want to ask in that is whose morality? It's not immoral to welcome and support people who haven't been a problem. Missouri is not a border state, and so spending money for this while kicking other people off of other really valuable programs like Medicare just does not seem fair or right to me. And then last, we really do need to try to help people not committing crimes who are here without proper documentation to gain their legal status and the legal documentation that they need. And that seems to be a place to spend our time and resources.
Questions for this witness? Thank you for being here. Senator Washington, go ahead.
Thank you, Pastor, for being here. I ask a real quick question. So I know that, how do I say this? We pride ourselves on our Christian values here in the state of Missouri. This bill kind of goes against Jesus himself, right? Because was he not an immigrant himself?
He was.
Thank you.
Further questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for being here. Anybody else here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 58? If you are, come on up. You don't, just... You want me to, I'll ask again.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Antonio Maldonado. I am a United States.
Sir, do you mind you guys speaking in the microphone, because we're required to stream all of this live so people that can't be here can listen to our proceedings. So is that microphone on, Senator? I can't tell. Okay, great. Proceed, sir.
My name is Antonio Maldonado. I am a Vietnam veteran, United States Air Force. I was born and raised in New York. I lived in Puerto Rico. I lived in Virginia. I lived in North Dakota. I lived in Missouri. I am in opposition to both 58 and 72, basically because you may have great intentions, but by the time this bill or this law gets interpreted by the residents of Missouri, it becomes something else. It becomes profiling. It becomes very ugly, neighbor against neighbor. Now, I had a written statement, but after listening, I was just going to repeat the same talking points. But I want to say one thing right now. The Pilgrims came here. Did they ask the Native Americans if they can file for citizenship? Everybody else after that has no birthright, if we take it in context of today's politics. Two, this bill was authored before President Trump was elected. The conversations happened before President Trump was elected. Some of the reason was that our federal government was not doing enough. Well, now, as of last week, they're going to do everything that you want them to do, and they're going to foot the bill for it. I do not see any reason for the state of Missouri to continue. Both of these laws, as far as I am concerned, are obsolete. Your new leader, your new president, our new president, made a mandate to start deporting illegal immigrants. And he's already, just in this past weekend, got a hold of 1,000 more. I don't know what the numbers are as of today, that are going to be deported. They're doing the work. This committee has no work to do anymore. Now, our Missouri law enforcement, they need your support. They need to get the criminals off the street, illegal or not illegal. We know that by the numbers, U.S. citizens commit more crimes than undocumented immigrants. We know that. It's a fact. We can't play with that. I am opposed, and I suggest that you drop both of these bills. History will show your humanitarian and your heart if you drop both of these bills.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Senator Washington? Go ahead,
Sorry,
sir.
Mr. Maldonado.
If you don't mind staying there, sir, you got a question. Yeah.
One, I want to apologize if you saw us laughing because I bet them $20 that you was from the East Coast, and we didn't have real money, but I won. But secondly, when you served in the military, were there any undocumented immigrants that served with you?
They were a lot of Hispanic airmen. I served in the Air Force, airmen. I did not even think of asking that question back during the Vietnam War.
But you understand we did have a program called Modifies that allowed for undocumented immigrants to actually, so technically
Anything legal or
illegal.
political back in the day, I did not know. I was just a compliant soldier. I was doing what I had to do. I socialized with African American, Hispanic, and whites during all of that. This whole issue of whether somebody belongs in this country or not was never came up. Let me say one quick thing. Now that you asked that question, what would have happened to the fighting men back then if we were saying, okay, you're welcome, you're not welcome, you're welcome, you're not welcome? We had segregation in the military before. By the time I got to Vietnam, I thought it was integrated. I thought we didn't have those issues. But of course, I was 18 when I joined in.
And you is 25 now, so we understand.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Love you. But one last thing, I have to say something. I'm a grandfather of 13 children. This weekend, we finally had a Christmas gift exchange because everybody lived Springfield, Maryland, Kirkwood. A conversation while I was making pancakes came up with some of the younger ones. And they were talking about the games that were being played in the schoolyard. Hey, come with me. I'm going to take you away. They absorbed from the news, I don't know where they got it, about all these raids and about all the deportation. They were playing a game where some were ice and some were brown. We can't do that to our children. We cannot set this in that mind. It's our responsibility to create future leaders. That's what we say we're all about. And now we're creating a game for kids that some are ICE or some are law enforcement and some are, you're brown. We're going to deport you. I'm sorry. I got to go.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in opposition? Go ahead. come up to the stand, please leave a witness form. Proceed when you're ready.
Thank you for having me. My name is Jessica Trout, and I am here as an individual, but I am also part of the Missouri Immigration Policy Coalition, Immigrant Service Providers Network, and I've been to the U.S.-Mexico border about 15 times. So I'm just saying this to kind of situate myself as far as my knowledge on these topics. To start with, I want to just put on public record that based on the action alerts we've seen, you all should have over 2,000 emails from Missourians saying that they are opposed to both of these bills. I think last time I checked, actually it's on my phone at the moment, it is 2,395 emails, and that is not including people who have called or emailed individually. But anyway, I want to just make this brief with SB58, as most folks have said a few of the points. One, it's a waste of money. It's opening you up to lawsuits. And if I'm going to be deported, I'm not going to pay $10,000. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And you have your federal precedences, you have civil rights that will be broken. So lots of legal battles and yeah, no civil rights anymore. But assuming that doesn't hold up in court, then you will have your own lawsuits. I also have data that shows that there are many law enforcement officers that feel like bills like this can't be practiced without using race, color, or ethnicity. I know we heard from some police officers before, but the National Immigration Law Center has an extensive report countering that. So I just want to be clear of that one. And then moving on to SB72. I believe most of you here probably are Christians, and you
have about 5 seconds left, and we need to wrap up Senate Bill 58. So
Okay.
we need to move on to the next Senate bill, especially since there's a lot of comments on Senate Bill 72. So he needs to get those comments under that bill. There's also a lot of regurgitated comments. So if we can try to come up with new comments or new thoughts, that would be great. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in favor, or I'm sorry, in opposition to the bill? Anybody else here to testify in opposition to this bill? Come on up. '58. Anybody else for 58 out there? Proceed when you're ready.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Gabriela Cepeda, and I currently live in St. Louis, where I attend St. Louis University School of Law. I'm also the president of the Hispanic and Latinx Law Students Association. I'm here to voice my strong opposition to Senate Bill 58. This bill does not reflect who we are as a state or as a nation. The penalties it imposes, such as heavy fines and imprisonment for individuals who are simply trying to survive, are unnecessary and harsh and dehumanizing. It punishes people for seeking safety, stability, and hope, the very thing that most of us take for granted. SB 58 turns a blind eye to the realities that drive immigration, replacing compassion and understanding with fear and punishment. The provision to create an interstate compact for border security is equally troubling. Immigration is a federal issue, and this approach does nothing to solve the root cause of migration. Instead, it diverts resources and creates confusion by allowing states to impose their own measures. This patchwork approach undermines the system and opens the door to mistakes, abuses of power, and unnecessary spending. What I find most upsetting is the creation of a new felony offenses like aggravated illegal presence. These provisions do not just criminalize behavior, they criminalize people. They take individuals who are often fleeing unimaginable circumstances and treat them as less than human. These laws do not make our state safer, they make our state crueler. They discourage cooperation with law enforcement, break families apart, and stigmatize entire communities. I come from a family of immigrants. My parents worked hard every single day to provide me with opportunities I have now. Bills like this one make me wonder, what if they had been met with these kinds of barriers? What if their journey had been treated as a crime instead of a dream? This isn't just policy, it's about people's lives, and this bill does nothing to improve those lives. Missouri should be a place where we support one another, where we welcome diversity, and we strive for solutions that reflect our shared humanity. SB58 fails on all these fronts. Instead of passing laws like this, we should be looking for ways to build bridges, not walls, and to solve problems without causing harm. I urge you to oppose Senate Bill 58. Let's work towards policies that reflect the values of justice, fairness, and dignity for all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Again, anybody else here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 58? Anybody else? Last chance. Yeah. All right. If you're here, there's plenty of seats. Some of them, if they're here for 58, if they can come in here and sit down, that'd be great. So they'll be ready to pop up. Go ahead, come to the stand, please. And if you're here to testify in opposition, please come to the stand. We are running short on time, and we have another immigration bill to get to. Proceed when you're ready. Please, also, there's been a lot of comments. If you could not regurgitate thoughts, and if you have some unique stuff, that'd be great.
Sure, I'll keep my comments brief. Thank you, committee members. My name is Sage Coram. I'm with the American Civil Liberties Union of Missouri. We're here to state our strong opposition to SB78. This bill follows
Do
legislative...
you mean Senate Bill 58? I'm sorry.
Oh, yes.
There's a 72 and a
58.
58. It's a little bit
Exactly.
confusing. Okay, so 58. Great.
Correct. Thank you. This bill follows in the legislative footsteps of other states that have attempted and then failed to criminalize quote-unquote illegal entry. So similar legislation that's been passed in Texas, Oklahoma, and Iowa. And in every case, this legislation has been met with community outrage, increased distrust, but specifically also extensive legal battles. So the law remains enjoined in all three of those states. And just last week in the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals, the preliminary injunction in Iowa was upheld. So that's allowing the law in Iowa to remain blocked. That decision to uphold that initial injunction in Iowa was reached by a panel of all Republican appointed judges, including one by Trump. So simply put, I think we've heard from a lot of people, this bill threatens not only our families, our friends, and our neighbors, but it's also going to invite extensive legal challenges and challenges the moral fabric of our state. So I'll leave my full comments. But thank you.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in opposition? If you'd jump up here, go ahead. Jump up here. Please leave a witness form for our records. We're going to also have to move the amount of time that we're giving for each testimonial shorter. You have 2 minutes right now, but we're going to have to move it down to 1 minute because we've got to move a little quicker. Thanks. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Bird. I live in Defiance, Missouri, and I don't have anything particularly eloquent to say. I think everybody's already said it. I just want to come forward as a citizen of Missouri and say that I'm against 58. I think it's a misuse of Missouri's resources, and that it's rooted in racism.
Great. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you. Anybody else here to testify in opposition?
Hi, my name is Tynan O'Neill. I'm a small business owner in the St. Louis metro area. I'm concerned about both SB72 and or 58 and 72. Concerned about the finances involved with having to fund both of these initiatives, and having that come back on me as a small business owner and having less resources for my organizations and being able to manage my business in the St. Louis metro area. I'm also a foster parent, have been for 5 years, concerned about SB72 and having somebody that could potentially have a bounty on my child that I'm trying to care for. I'm concerned about convict leasing that would come into play to be able to afford some of these things, and that negatively impacting me as a small business as well, not being able to compete with that. So if you are in favor of small businesses, or if you are in favor of farms that rely on local labor, vote against this and do not let this come out of committee.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 58? And we're going to have to move to a 1 minute timer, so.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name's Christy Hilgedick. I would like to tell you a little bit about my family. We have a 2,000-acre row crop operation in the Missouri River Bottoms. He's a 2-time past president of the Missouri Corn Growers Association. He's currently the president of the Fire Protection District, and he is the director of 2 levy districts. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my son. He's 19 years old. He's got a 3.5 GPA in biochemistry at Mizzou. He's job shadowed doctors all over central Missouri. He's raised tens of thousands of watermelons. You've probably bought them at your grocery store. He's an FFA student. He is an excellent golfer. He works at Kilgore's. He's a SIGEP right now. He's a great kid. He does not look like me. I'm worried he's going to get scooped up in one of your raids. I'm really kind of terrified, to be honest. I'd really not have to go through that terrible family experience. I guess that's the main point.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
No, this is mine.
Anybody else here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 58?
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Stack. I'm a registered lobbyist with the Mid-Missouri Fellowship of Reconciliation. Our group is an interfaith social justice group. Our group believes basically that no human being is illegal. So to start with, the language is horrific, we think. And, you know, it's a case of scapegoating, I think, quite frankly. And this has gone on in our country for a couple centuries now. The idea that the immigrant, we should fear them. And I think that it's completely inappropriate. We need to instead try to welcome those who are coming from these difficult situations, recognize the worth that they bring to our communities, recognize as well there are many studies, and I'm sorry I was in the other room, so I'm not trying to duplicate what was said, but I think it's really important that we look at that indeed many studies have shown that immigrants are less likely to commit crime. One study that was done by the National Bureau of Economic Research found, this is updated in 2024, it found that immigrants today are 60% less likely to be incarcerated than our U.S.-born white folks. So, you know, this idea of the fear to have of the other is just not appropriate.
Okay. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Indeed. Anybody else here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 58? Come on, hop up here and just grab a chair anywhere where there's a mic. And if you've already testified, if you wouldn't mind leaving the room so we can get more people in here by any chance. I don't know how many more. Brian, do you know how many more are out there for this one? Okay, great. Proceed when you're ready.
Yes. My name is Isabel Diaz. I'm 25 years old, and I work for a nonprofit organization. For a lot of our undocumented families, this bill is terrifying. I feel like it's inhumane. This affects my children, the children that I work for, my own family. I feel like it's unfair because it's racial profiling. I have got pulled over on my way to work, and I feel like it's not a good thing. Like, what if this keeps happening? This jeopardizes my job as an educator. We cannot continue with this. We need to do better, and we need to find a compromise to accept these hardworking people into our country, because immigrants make America great, and they help our economy too.
Okay. Questions for this witness? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
We're going to continue with opposition. Go ahead and hop up here, and we'll hear your thoughts. You're great.
My name is Amanda. Thank you. I'm afraid I'll do something to them. My name is Amanda Vega-Mavic. I'm the executive director of an organization in the Kansas City area called Start at Zero, and we work with families. We partner with parents and caregivers to promote healthy early childhood development. And I'm here in opposition to both 58 and 72. And again, I know a lot of the same points have been made, so I will try to be a little bit different, but also want to add as much voice and numbers to even the same arguments. The vast majority of the immigrants in our communities are not criminals. They are most of them are ideal community members. They are the neighbors you want. And in my 20 years as an educator working with only immigrant populations, I've had the privilege and honor of getting to know them. And one family in particular that I think about, they are both hardworking, they pay taxes, they give back by volunteering for social services agencies rather than taking from those agencies. They volunteer at their son's school. They are leaders in their church. They are the people you want in your communities. They are the people that you want here. You don't want to hurt them or
Thank you.
harm them. This also would cause, as mentioned, danger to our economy because of the amount of workers that we depend on for jobs that a lot of other people simply won't do.
Thank you, ma'am, for being here. I'm really sorry. We're going to shut down the testimony, and a lot of these points again we've heard many times. If you have written testimony, you can send it to us. We'll get it out to everybody in the committee and make sure it's distributed. We're happy to do that.
The
Any
last
final
thing
comments?
I will say is we need to be spending time, effort, and money strengthening families because that is how we have a better society, not destroying them and tearing them apart.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Seeing none. Thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here in opposition to Senate Bill 58? Anybody else? Come on up. Just hop up here. Go ahead. You both of you can sit down. It's fine. Then once one is done, the other one can hop in.
Yeah, my name is Beto Martinez. I'm a U.S. citizen. I was born and raised here. My father was born and raised here. My grandmother was a landowner of this country. And I want to just raise the fact that this law has not been enacted yet. So whoever, I couldn't see because it was in the overflow room, who is acting as a judge and asking questions and referring to our communities as illegal aliens. This has not been enacted, and okay, well, I don't know who's asking it, but really think about that because that's not what has been enacted yet. And so really want to make sure I stress that, but I am here to also testify on Senate Bill 72, and I can come back for that and have a more comprehensive comment on that. But just want to share my opposition to this bill.
Thank you. Sir, go ahead.
I think that using these...
Identify yourself first, if you
sorry.
don't mind. It's okay.
Yes, my name is Sankirth Tumala. I'm a PhD student at Missouri S&T. And I'm opposing SB58 because I believe that this putting funding towards this would be a waste of Missouri taxpayer money, and it's not going to benefit Missouri citizens' lives at all. I think overall this would just be a waste for even the proponents of this bill.
Okay. We've heard that several times. Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for this witness? Representative Washington, or Senator Washington, I'm sorry. Go ahead. It's all yours, Senator.
Thank you for being here. Can you tell me what you get your PhD in?
Nuclear engineering.
And what is your status here in the States?
I'm a legal immigrant. I was born to a legal citizen.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none. Thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 58? If you are, just come on up. Seeing none. Anybody here for informational purposes only? Seeing none. That'll conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 58. Thank you, Senator Carter. We are going to go ahead and get started on Senate Bill 72. And hold on a second. We're going to recess first. Yeah, great. So we just need to recess, and then we'll come back for the session. You have the language. All right, I'm sorry. We are going to go ahead and recess. Obviously, we're up against the time. The Committee on Transportation, Infrastructure, and Public Safety will recess this hearing and return on this day, January 27th at 4:15 p.m. in Senate Committee Room 1. We're recessed.
Now, I know we've heard a lot of testimony today already about illegal immigration in general and the different effects of that. So I'm going to cut right to what this bill does so you can understand two things. Number one, you can understand the differences between the bill that we last heard. And number two, more importantly, you can understand what the bill actually does. Now, I know it's surprising to some, but the media has not been honest about what this bill actually does. Now, it's shocking to some. For some like me, it's not shocking one bit. So I'm going to talk about briefly what this bill does, and I'd like to open it up to questions, most particularly Senator Washington, because I think there's a lot that can be ironed out about what the law currently is and what laws we can and cannot change. So, Senate Bill 72. In short, this bill seeks to create an ICE program at the state level. That's essentially all it does. This is an ICE program inside the state of Missouri, okay? So much like ICE, we will have the Department of Public Safety conduct investigations. Much like ICE, there will be a tip line that the Department of Public Safety can use to initiate investigations. Much like ICE, we have to actually do an effective investigation and have enough probable cause to initiate a warrant for someone's arrest before they can be tracked and arrested. Just like ICE with a detainer warrant. Just like ICE, once a warrant is issued for an illegal immigrant's arrest, then and only then can a police officer or a licensed bounty hunter effectuate that arrest. So we've heard a lot of things. Oh, we don't want bounty hunters going around kicking in doors, demanding UC papers. That is 100% illegal now. It is 100% illegal in my bill when it passes. It is 100% illegal per constitutional law. You cannot do that. You cannot walk up to a person today on American soil and say, show me your papers. You can't do it. Police can't do it. As a matter of fact, federal agents can't do it without a detainer warrant. Okay? Those are what are called warrantless arrests. It is not allowed per constitutional law, which means we cannot change it here, nor can the federal government change it. These are all falsehoods that the liberal media puts out. So that is what this essentially does. There are also, what are also illegal per constitutional law that this bill does not do is what are called reasonable suspicious detentions. So you can't just see someone that you think is suspicious, walk up to them and say, you know, what's going on? What's your status? Are you legal? Are you illegal? That's not allowed. Also not allowed by a citizen, not allowed by a bounty hunter, not allowed by even a police officer or a federal agent today. Again, all falsehoods. So I'd like to open up for any questions. I know there are several, and I'm super excited to help you understand what the actual current of the law, status of the law is.
All right. One question. You have maybe a substitute. So did you cover that? I'm sorry, I didn't.
I did not cover that. I have had it distributed. Everyone should have had it. If you have substitute 06C in front of you. Essentially,
we'll
what
make
that
sure
did,
everybody gets it. But I don't know if you want to cover high-level stuff.
Yeah.
And people can come talk to you and ask questions about what those changes may be.
So the substitute combines the two different bills. We were going to initially bifurcate the two bills. They're ideas that I ran on back since last summer, ideas that a lot of constituents of mine supported. And so we were going to bifurcate them to make sure that we really could thoroughly vet both. But since the mass misunderstanding of what this actually does and its intent, I have decided to roll it into one sub and cover it all as one standing bill inside Senate Bill 72. So you will see that substitute in front of you. It is marked 06C.
Great. Any questions for the sponsor? Senator Weber, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator, sorry, I came in right towards the end of your comments, so I apologize if I missed.
It's okay.
If a person is unjustly, I don't know what the right word is, if somebody tries to call him a tip and says, I think, my neighbor is undocumented and there's an investigation, that person was not undocumented, do they have any kind of recourse for their troubles, or?
Yes. So currently, today, we have hotlines. We have hotlines all across the country. We have hotlines, tons of them, hundreds, if not thousands, right here in Missouri. And currently is against the law to harass or give false reports to hotlines. That is already the law. And you will see that in my sub 06C. I have it on page, bear with me, page 5, about midway down, subsection F, you will see that I put this in the sub. It was not in the original. Nothing in this section shall be construed to prohibit the commencement of a criminal action under section 575080, which is the harassment statute. So what I did is just clarified, because again, some folks, genuine folks, seem confused about what this law does and what other laws are in place. And I don't have to explain that to senators here. We don't write bills and include every current law on point in our bills. Of course we don't do that. That's redundant. All we do is talk about the changes we're bringing. We do not repeat every current law on point. So what I've looked to do is repeat some of those more concerning laws, just as an effort to help explain what it's actually doing, and that is one of them.
So I understand that it would not neutralize any of the harassment statutes, but in terms of like the actual individual getting actual recourse for their inconvenience, for their harassment, even if it's a well-intentioned call, is there any provision currently for them to get? I mean, it feels like if somebody gets, somebody calls a hotline and turns their name in, and all of a sudden they have to deal with all this stuff, and it's all completely incorrect, that there should be some sort of recourse for that individual.
Well, a couple things. Fair question. I'm glad you brought that up. Number one, most of the time under these investigations, they don't even know they're being investigated, right? Because again, a policeman per federal constitutional law cannot walk up and say, "Excuse me, Senator, are you documented? Can I see your documents?" It's not allowed. Okay? That's not what ICE is doing right now either. And that's another falsehood. So they wouldn't even know, 99% chance they wouldn't even know they're being reported. But I still do believe, even though they don't know they're being harassed, that they are still in fact being harassed. And I want to make sure if somebody's doing that, that they are indicted for the crime that they're committing.
Okay. And then the second question, I saw briefly, and you may have addressed this, but I think the fiscal note was like $4.5 million. What was the cost?
I just got the note today, and I believe the cost they were projecting 13 new FTE, 40. So they're projecting 40 FTE, and I'm not sure why. Right. So the Department of Public Safety has the authority to promulgate these rules within the statute, and I'm guessing that is saying that they're going to want peace officers, more peace officers to do this. Now, under the statute, you can deploy a bounty hunter for the effect of that arrest. Just like we do U.S. citizens, right? Under a surety bond, we deploy them to effectuate arrests of U.S. citizens that are due in court every day. Under this, we would have a new program set up to train those bounty hunters only for the effection of a warrant arrest. And so I can't tell if these 40 FTE are for peace officers, only meaning police officers, or if it's a combination thereof. I'm not sure.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I've been waiting.
Senator Washington, do you have questions for the sponsor?
Yeah.
Proceed.
Thank you. I didn't hear all of your testimony, but I do have a few questions.
Yes, ma'am.
And he knows I'm going to get emotional with him because we've been together for a long time.
We're friends.
So, you mentioned this is going to be similar to what law enforcement already has with respect to bounty hunters. Can you please state for me what U.S. statute or Missouri statute allows a regular citizen to order a bounty hunter?
It doesn't. This doesn't either.
This allows citizens to get to be involved into the criminal justice system.
No. This allows surety bail bonds to apply to become a bounty hunter, which is a heightened licensed program. Now, can any citizen apply to become a police officer or a bail bondsman? Yes. Only after they are licensed as a bail bondsman, they can apply for and become additionally trained and licensed as a bounty hunter.
Who gets the $1,000?
The $1,000 is a hotline. That's another falsehood by the media. No surprise. There is a far cry of a difference. No. See, now, Senator, we're going to talk lawyer to lawyer. There's a big difference between a bounty and a reward. You know the difference.
No. We're going to be lawyers. Let's be lawyers.
Let's do it.
That question had nothing to do with bounty hunters. The question is specifically who gets the $1,000.
It's a reward for a tip line, not the bounty hunters.
I didn't say nothing about the bounty hunter.
Okay.
I'm a litigator just like you.
Okay.
I know how to play with the words just like you.
Well, I'm not playing with words.
So
I'm speaking truth in the bill.
Do you not think that if someone's going to get $1,000 for turning somebody in, that is not going to cause issues in our communities?
We already have an ICE tip line. They get way more than $1,000.
Okay, this is why
this
we
is
need,
a fraction of what is currently in existence.
You want to end DEI, you want to end CRT. This is why Black history is American history. Do you understand where the bounty hunters came from? Do you understand that, Senator? Do you know where that concept came from?
If you don't like our bail bondsman system...
It's a question. Do you understand where the bounty hunter concept came from?
I know that it's present in all 50 states.
So it's a yes or no. Do you or do you not?
I know that much.
Okay. Have you heard of Harriet Tubman?
Of course.
Frederick Douglass.
Okay.
Nat Turner.
Okay.
Hell, slavery. The bounty hunter concept was to give rewards. That's exactly what this bill is doing. I want you to understand
It's
that.
not what the bill is doing.
Let me talk, because as far as I know from your skin color, I don't think you descend from no slaves. And unlike most of the black people in this building, I don't go back a whole bunch of generations. I go back to my great-grandfather. I just go back 2. Okay? Bounty hunters were put in place to bring black slaves to their masters.
So why haven't
Thank you, Mexico,
eliminated
for
the
not
bounty
giving
hunter
them up.
program?
Excuse me?
Have you filed a bill to eliminate our current bail bondsman system?
It's not about. I don't have a problem with the bail bondsman system. I'm a criminal I'm a criminal defense attorney. I want them in there. But
okay.
but our criminal justice system does not give $1,000 for somebody just saying, oh, that person is possibly illegal.
We give the current.
We have
ICE
reward
tip
systems,
reward-
but the
yes.
bounty hunter has nothing to do with that, and that is for after someone committed a crime.
No, that is someone who skipped court.
No, that's
Yes.
illegal now. We can't do that anymore.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a surety. It's a surety is a different system. Which
We
is
can't
why I
issue a warrant
established
for
new-
certain. We can't issue a warrant for certain ones.
There's already a bench warrant because they didn't appear in court. Yes,
It
there's a
depends on what
warrant.
kind of court it is, Senator.
No, it's
Yes,
a
it does.
surety.
If I
That's how surety
I just
bondsmen
filed a
work.
motion right now because I have a client who got a warrant from Springfield today for a traffic ticket. It is against Missouri law now to do that. We
Yes,
passed a
because
law
they-
that went into effect in August. So if you're not a criminal defense attorney, because you know I'm gonna light you up on that, stick with them big personal injury cases that you make all that money.
Senator, when you're ready to talk about it, we can talk about the law.
This
Bench warrants for traffics.
There is no.
cases
You
within
cannot
municipal
do that
courts.
anymore.
You cannot.
You
Correct.
cannot do that anymore.
Municipal courts. We still have surety bail bondsmen 100%.
For non-traffic offenses.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Non-traffic.
Okay. So I
Correct.
was right. Right.
Okay.
Why do you think we need this? Because when I wash my hair, somebody's gonna think I'm from another country, and somebody may send out try to get $1,000 for me and my daughter. My sister, who is very, 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 very light skinned, but she has dreadlocks now, so she looks like she is North African. They could call on her. Why do we need to give somebody $1,000 to say that I think I have an undocumented immigrant next door?
So, Senator, it's already in existence. Is that happening to you today?
It's already it's what happened to me. Getting stopped because somebody.
Tips?
I got stopped last week and I was told to get my birth certificate because they didn't think I was American.
Someone called you into the federal ICE program?
No,
for
I got
reward?
stopped on the highway.
Okay, so you have no evidence of ever being reported to a tip line for being illegal. Is that right?
No, but I got stopped for it.
Wow. So all of a sudden it's going to start happening. We have this program already that rewards you a lot more than $1,000 at the federal level. Why is it going to start at the state level for a much
How much they get at the federal level? Maybe
It's
y'all do something different in St.
undisclosed.
Louis County,
It's
but we don't do that in Kansas
billions
City.
Since the 2003 George Bush Act.
But
And then,
we
of
have
course,
never
President
given an
Obama,
award in
he
Kansas City. Y'all doing
deported
something
more
different?
illegal immigrants than any president in the history
That ain't got
of
nothing to
America.
do with giving a regular
Under the
person
ICE
$1,000
reward
for
system.
calling.
Billions. They spend billions on the reward system. Billions with a B.
Well, they didn't do that in Missouri. Can you get me the Missouri
They can do
numbers?
it across
Get
the
me
whole
the
country.
Missouri numbers. I am so sick of folks coming in here and telling me about what's going on here, there, and everywhere, and not talking about the issues we have in our own state. Because we spending time on this while black and brown and white women is dying because they can't have babies because we ain't providing the right resources. We got 200-some thousand babies that can't get their Medicaid. But we spending time on we gonna give somebody $1,000 so they can turn in Susie Margarita. And I'm not trying to be offensive, so I hope no one takes that the wrong way. Which is gonna cause more problems. Let me ask you this. How many Mexicans you got in your district?
I don't know. I don't know the demographics of my district.
Excuse me?
I don't know the percent demographics of my district. We have all kinds of different demographics.
You don't know the demographics of your district, so who are you here speaking for?
I'm here speaking on behalf of my district and the state of Missouri. We need this badly. Over the amount of terrorists on the terrorist watch list.
Do we have terrorists
that
in
have
Missouri
been
on the terrorist
caught-
watch?
That have been caught at the border.
Do we have them here in Missouri? Get me the list.
Terrorism
Get me
is
the
a
list.
national
Get
problem.
me the list of the terrorists in
terrorist act
Missouri.
has affected
In
every
Missouri.
state.
In Missouri.
Every
In
terrorist attack.
Missouri. In Missouri.
Okay. Every terrorist attack has affected the entire country.
How did it affect Missouri?
It affects our safety. It affects the way we fly.
How?
It affects the way we work. It affects the way we enter buildings. It affects the entire country.
Have you been to the White House since
Literally, the director
2020?
of the FBI.
Have you been to the White House since
Biden, of all
2021?
people. The director
Would
of the
you
FBI
consider January
said,
6
quote,
people terrorists?
Every border is a...
Because now I have
every
to
state-
enter the White House a different way today than I did in 2020.
Senators, if we can have a debate that we're hearing each other at least a little bit, giving each other a chance to talk. So we
He
can hear
cute, so he
debate.
think he can just use
Senator,
that.
I can't speak to that, but it'd be great if we can all just let each other speak. We would appreciate it. Have a little bit of decorum. Appreciate it from both of you. I've let the committee.
You're
go.
right. You're right.
I've
You're
let
right,
the
Chair.
committee go a lot, and that we need to have a fair and free debate.
You're right.
We need to hear each other.
Okay, let me ask him another question. What's the penalty for the bail person or the bounty hunter that picks up the wrong person? And what type of cause of action? Because that's what you deal in is torts.
Yeah.
What type of tort is in here so I can be recompensated?
It's the same. It's going to be held to the same standard as effectuating any
Can
other
you point that
warrant
out in
for
your bill
arrest.
where I can get paid for someone picking me up incorrectly?
Well, Senator, as I said before you got here, to be fair, we can't put every current law on the books that affects this law in our bill. You know that.
Then if we can't, how do we follow it? We lawyers. If I ain't got a statute and if there's no statute, then the judge can't interpret it. So why can't you put everything in here?
Well, Senator, again, there are certain liabilities for police officers to execute warrants. Okay,
But this
certain
ain't a police
rules.
officer.
It's going to be under the same exact set of rules anytime you effect a warrant for arrest. It's the same laws, no matter who.
But that's
does
not
it.
what it is today.
That is what
no,
it
it is
is
not
today.
because they do not. A bail bondsman, Senator, respectfully, does not have the same qualified immunity as a police officer.
That's right, because it's a surety. This is not a surety. There's a big difference. That's why I'm heightening the training. There's plenty of similarities and transferable skills, but this is executing a warrant for the first time.
It doesn't matter whether it's a surety or not.
Yes, it does.
Yes, sir.
A surety, you
Sir.
waive constitutional rights.
Sir.
Illegal immigrants are not waiving any constitutional rights.
Respectfully,
Senator.
if the bounty hunter, if I miss court and he posted a bond, and he comes to me, and he goes to the wrong place, he does not enjoy any of the immunities that the police officer has if he goes to the wrong place. I don't know if you have never practiced it, but I can guarantee you're going to ask any bondsman and they will tell you, we try to make sure we check that because and I will bring you the numbers of those who have gone out of business because they had to pay because they went to the wrong place.
Yes.
So they should not, are they going through the same training as the police officers?
They're going through heightened training, not the entire,
long
whatever,
do-
6-month academy.
They're not,
No.
but you want to give them the same rights?
Just effectuating an arrest, not the same rights as a policeman, no.
Well, what else do policemen do?
Well, they do all kinds of
Well, tell
traffic
us.
stops. They do, our policemen do domestics.
If
Our
I-
policemen do a lot more than just effectuate an arrest from a bench. A lot more. Our police officers do a lot more.
With respect to warrants, what else do police do?
Well, I certainly hope they affect arrests, but yes, about the same. To effect an arrest, they'll do about the same, and then according to the bill, under the bill, the bounty hunters are only allowed to execute on the warrant, and they're given the information they need from the Department of Public Safety, which is all peace officers.
And how much is this going to cost our state?
They say $5 million. I would argue less.
Where are you getting your numbers from?
I'm getting my numbers from the fact that I don't think we need that many additional peace officers and overhead, but
But you don't even have the statistics on how many terrorists we have in Missouri. So
we
how
have
do you know
statistics
exactly?
of 77,000 illegal immigrants is the
Here in
statistics
Missouri?
that we have here in Missouri.
And so that they should all be subject to this because you're saying that we should arrest them just because they're here?
Yes, and then
Where are
as
your
you can
parents
see in my
from?
bill,
Where are
as
your
you-
parents from?
As you can see in the bill, once the arrest is effected, the very first hearing, if ICE does not want to pick them up, the very first hearing, it's determined if they are considered dangerous. If they're not, they're released.
Yeah, they're released to go back to their country. Whenever ICE picks them up, all of them
They're
go
released
back.
from custody
They
because
all go
ICE doesn't
back.
want them. That's right.
Again, I'm a criminal defense attorney, so I know that they all go back. So can
They
I
don't
ask,
all go
what,
back.
what is your,
Senator, let's talk
what's
about
your
the police
history?
officer that in the city of St. Louis that was killed a few months ago. You want to talk about that?
I don't know nothing about that. Let's talk about the black person that got shot in his back by the police officer in Kansas City, or the 17-year-old girl who was 8.5 months old and got thrown down on the ground, or the bounty hunter who went to the wrong house and killed the grandma and the little 9-month-old baby. We want to talk about that?
Okay, well, I'd like to talk about the illegal immigrant that killed a police officer a few months ago, right here in the city of St. Louis. Right, because he was in jail for a serious
But he do that only because he was an
domestic
illegal
assault.
immigrant?
They released him, and he went on to kill a policeman.
So
They
you said he
don't
was
just get
arrested
deported.
and then he was released.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with him being an illegal immigrant, Senator. Respectfully, that's
No,
something wrong with y'all
But
police.
under my bill, he wouldn't have been released
How do you know?
because it was very clear he was dangerous.
So how is this going to change? Because it's the police that released him, right? It's the police that released him.
No, it was a judge, and a judge would make that determination here.
And
but
the judge
this
will still be
provides-
able to make that determination because the one thing they have in their courtroom is what, Senator?
Well, they have discretion.
Exactly.
Not complete discretion. That's why.
Oh,
we
no,
as a
they
legislature-
do. Within the statutes and the laws,
the
they do.
statute's very good.
Yeah.
We're changing a statute right here.
No, we're not changing this statute, bro.
Oh, we're changing this.
No.
thing's passing.
So let me
It's
ask you,
passed.
where your people from?
My people.
Where your mom and daddy
I'm
from?
Chesterfield. Oh, St. Louis.
Where your grandparents from? Because you know you got a little darkness, so it's no way that you are Native American.
Yeah.
And if you're not, then you too come from immigrant families.
Immigrants are good. Legal immigration, good. Illegal immigration, bad. Big difference.
So should I go back?
Big difference.
So should I go back?
Illegal
Should I
immigration
go
is-
back? Should I go back?
Are you illegal?
My great grandpa was,
Well, okay, so he was.
because we're black, so we were all illegal.
No.
I am a descendant of a. Do you not know your Constitution? Do I need to
You
bring
were
my phone down
legal.
here?
Senator.
Sir, my grandfather, my great grandparents were not citizens of this United States.
But you are. So you asked, should you go back?
So
My
you're going to
answer is
send the mama
no.
back that has some babies?
Say
You're
that
going
again.
to send her back? Because she's here illegally, but her babies was born here?
Right now, the law is that they are legal. They are citizens.
And how are we going to check to see who's legal and who's not?
Well, that's exactly part of the investigation, and that's why this framework arranges for cooperation with ICE. But if you don't have probable cause for a warrant to prove they're illegal, you're not getting it. You're not getting an arrest.
Your bill
You're not allowed
doesn't say
to
that
walk
they
up
have to
them.
have probable cause, though.
Yes, you have to get a warrant, which means probable cause. Yes.
Well, I don't know how many counties you've practiced in, but that's not always the case.
It's always the case.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
All
right.
It's not always the case. And probable cause is what is it? What's that word you use? That D word?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Discretion.
Discretion.
Uh-huh.
Yes, of course.
Is that not right?
That's right. Yes.
Okay.
Judges have to decide at their discretion if there is probable cause. Of course. Yes.
Thank
if
you.
you don't like the way our judicial system works, let's make
I love
other
the way our
changes.
judicial
Well,
system
apparently
works.
you
I don't know. I
Apparently you
don't like that I'm going to go arrest somebody because they look like they might be from somewhere else because the neighbor told me to.
Well, that's not what's happening here.
But that's what you want.
No, it's not what I want. That's why I wrote it this way.
Go get me your 23andMe so we can have that discussion. Thank you.
All right.
Further questions for the sponsor? Seeing none. I'm going to lay a couple ground rules. We have already had a hearing on Senate Bill 58. A lot of you have already testified in that hearing. Some of you testified against 58 and against 72. So if you've already done that, we have your testimony. We have you on record. You don't need to come up here and say you're against it again. We also need to ensure that we're not saying the same thing over and over again. So if you can kind of keep your comments unique to your story or to the points you want to make, that would be super helpful because we also have another hearing after this that's also going to be contentious. So if you could keep it to that, that'd be great. And we're gonna do 1 minute testimony for and against. We'll go back and forth, and we'll start with those that are for Senate Bill 72. If you're in favor of Senate Bill 72, come on up. Please make sure you fill out a witness form, and we have 1 minute for testimony for everybody that's going to testify in favor or against the bill. Senator Washington.
Can I ask the sponsor one more quick question?
Quickly, very
Okay.
quickly.
I'll answer quickly.
Senator, if I came over here as a refugee and I don't yet have my status, they just brought me here. I'm going through the resettlement. Do I get arrested under this?
You're not supposed to, and if you do, you have a defense. This
So
is
while I'm-
any defendant seeking asylum under 8 USC section 1158. Absolutely.
But I'm being but I'm in ICE. I'm in custody. Have you ever
Well,
been in
you
custody,
wouldn't- you
Senator?
wouldn't if you are truly seeking asylum. Let's talk about that for one quick second. You're coming through the port of entry, right? Now, the problem, of course, is we've got people sneaking through the mountains with backpacks of stuff, and they're seeking asylum too, which is nuts. Walk down the paved road, come through the port of entry the way our law says to, register yourself, and there's no way you're going to get arrested because you're registered.
I'm sorry.
You're registered.
I promise, 30 seconds. You said there's no way.
There's no way.
ICE just arrested American black people that had been in Jersey. They just arrested, and they're still in custody today. They was arrested last week. They have some Puerto Ricans arrested. A Native American was arrested, and they are still in custody. And while you probably have never been in custody, and I get that, but just the custody is going to mess those people up for the rest of their life, especially if they are refugees. My refugees don't come over here and automatically have their paperwork. And so under this, if someone said, hey, the Somali down there, it's time, go, he ain't got his paperwork yet, then he gets arrested. Mind you, he's been living in a refugee camp for 7 years, and now he's over here and you're causing more stress. So don't tell me that it's not going to happen when it's happening right now.
Okay. Well, Senator, that's the
Thank
beauty
you.
of this bill. They are protected under this bill.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. My name is Rabbi Zev Mason. I serve as chairman of the Coalition for Jewish Values of Missouri and the Midwest Regional Vice President of the CJV, representing 2,500 Orthodox rabbis and tens of thousands of Jews, both throughout this country as well as in the state of Missouri. And I'm here today to express my strong support for Senate Bill 72. As a rabbi and as a fourth-generation American, I believe that the principles of justice, law, and order are foundational to a thriving society. And let me share very briefly 4 reasons why I believe that this bill aligns with our moral values. Number one, the sanctity of the law. Deuteronomy 16:20 says we are commanded to pursue justice, and it mentions the pursuit of justice twice in that passage. Number two, economic and social strain. Illegal immigration strains public resources such as health care, education, and social services, the costs of which are borne by law-abiding citizens. 3, job market concerns. Illegal immigration increases competition for jobs and puts downward pressure on wages for low-income citizens. And 4th and finally, security concerns. It exacerbates illegal immigration does, allowing illegal immigrants to remain here. It exacerbates security risks, including the trafficking of drugs and violence linked to criminal organizations. And if one might say that a passage in Leviticus in chapter 19 says, love the stranger as yourself, that word in Hebrew means one who fully adheres to the laws and to the customs of the land.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the sponsor? Senator Washington, go ahead.
Really quick, so you're in support of the bill, sir?
I'm sorry, ma'am?
Did you say you were in support of the bill?
I am in support.
Okay, and I think I heard you mention that the illegal immigrants drain our economic resources or something of that nature?
Yes.
How much did they pay in taxes last year?
I don't know.
If I told you they paid $96 billion, would that seem like something that drains our economic resources?
I would say that that would need to be compared to what it is that the citizens of the United States of America are paying to be able to support them in the various ways.
If I told you that
$96 billion here versus how much is being spent by tax citizens, and then I'd be
Tax citizens to do what?
I'm sorry?
So how much is being spent by
if
tax citizens to do what? To take care of them?
They pay $96 billion. How much money are Americans paying to be able to support them through health services and various other ways in which they're supported by Americans?
How much do they get in Social Security once they retire?
I don't know.
Nothing. How much Medicaid can they have?
I don't know.
Nothing. How much Medicare can they have?
I don't know.
Nothing. So if they are having health care, as you mentioned, that means that they're paying for insurance. So they're not draining us. If they're in school, as in the state of Missouri, our education for K through 12 is predominantly over 70% paid for by our property taxes. I don't know where you live, but on my block, I have 9 Mexicans who all own their homes and pay their taxes. So their kids should be able to go to school on their taxes, because that really is the only benefit they get from paying the taxes that they pay. And what's odd to me is you talked about them being a burden to us, right? Now you are, I would presume, a Jewish man.
I am.
So you have a different belief of Jesus than I do as a Christian, correct?
Correct.
But you all believe in Jesus. You just don't believe he was the Son of God or whatever, right? Is that correct?
We have a different belief.
Okay. So we as Christians, we believe in Jesus, and we supposed to be following his teachings and all that. But he himself was an immigrant that took some resources from a place that he wasn't from. Is that your understanding?
I'm not versed in Christian theology to be able to answer your question.
Okay. But I want you to explain to me where they're taking resources with some stats.
I don't have statistics.
And who is your source?
The various things that I've read, the sources that I've looked at. I didn't come...
Or any of those government sources?
Given that I knew that I only had two minutes, which I thought originally I had 2 minutes.
You have 2 minutes to talk. I have more minutes to question.
Okay. I did not come prepared with statistics, given
Okay.
that I knew that I was prepared to...
And so the information that you have are those from any government entities?
From various websites, including government entities.
Which ones?
The ICE website.
And the ICE website says that the America is losing this much money because of illegal immigrants?
Various sources that I've seen confirm that there is a substantial economic burden on American citizens because of illegal immigrants.
What government agency again?
Which government agency?
What government agency says that?
I don't have the sources in front of me.
Okay. Because, that's important to, if somebody just saying that, I say a lot of crazy shit stuff. I'm sorry, Senator.
Senator, please.
You can ding me. I say a lot of crazy stuff all the time. It doesn't make it true. But I do think we need to be careful. And maybe you didn't know, but and the reason I'm passionate about this, and I can tell Senator Gregory as well, is I represent a very, very diverse community. And I will tell you, my people ain't getting no Medicaid. They ain't getting no food stamps. They don't get no Section 8. They pay their taxes because they all work, and they will not get anything, nothing at all. I know a 68-year-old lady. She became legal when she was about 40. She had been here for about 20-some years. She retired at about 55 from her job. Those first 20-some-odd years, she don't got nothing to show for it because she could not get any of the money she placed into the Social Security system. She can't get it. They don't count that as part of her quarters. So I just want us to be careful when we're saying that they're pulling from our system and we don't have the resources or the sources to tell us exactly what that is. And I appreciate you coming here, I really do. But I think we have to be careful on that if we don't know what the true facts are. When you go to the farms in Missouri, we have Hispanics working there. One, they're underpaid, but we never go after the farmer. We're not going after companies like Tyson. But they do take taxes out of their checks, and they forward them on to the government. Thank you.
Further questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. All right, we'll move to opposition. So those in opposition. Yeah, you have 1 minute. Did you testify earlier also opposed to this at the same time?
Yeah, but this is just what I'm going to say.
Very quickly. It's a very, very long day if we're allowing you to testify against it twice.
My name is Germán González Herrera from González Herrera Law Firm. I am immigration attorney working for 7 years. I just want to say on record that the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, does not give any money for the people that is contact them. That is, you can see on their social media and in the webpage of them, they said, for the record, contrary to rumors, ICE is not giving a $750 reward for tips in support of civil immigration enforcement objectives. Thank you.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in support of Senate Bill 72? Anybody here to testify in support? Seeing none, anybody else here to testify in opposition?
Chair, members of the committee, Henry Telmack with the International Institute of St. Louis to go on record in opposition to Senator Gregory's bill. I'll keep it short. So the Institute works with immigrants who have come to this country lawfully, whether that's through the refugee resettlement program, asylee resettlement program, or the onerous immigration system that we have in place. But our biggest concerns, while we do have many, with this bill is the perception and the reality that legal immigrants will face in this state. Senator Gregory alluded to that there is an incentive of $1,000 for those who report an immigrant that they believe are possibly here illegal. That incentivization to folks does create some concerns for the Institute, as this does possibly create situations in which those who are here lawfully, possibly living here for decades, paying taxes, which immigrants, I believe, in 2022 paid $856 million in state and local taxes, that will create a concern for them as they are now possibly going to be discriminated against. I say this as, Mr. Chair, you typically bring out the point that I typically wear my headphones everywhere that I go. Many of you know who I am. I came to this country as an asylee, right, when I was at the age of 5 or 6. And I speak Creole, or French, with my parents at all times. Senator Washington has asked that I speak French, so my real name is Henri Telemac. Je suis de Haïti, je vis en Haïti, et je viens d'Amérique à l'âge de 7 ans. Right, so I speak French or Creole often when I'm speaking to my friends or my family, or my accent returns when I'm speaking to a friend from Senegal or Zimbabwe or Ghana. Now, if I go to the store and someone believes that I'm a legal immigrant, they can report me to the hotline. Senator Gregory has said that there will be a warrant that is necessary for me to be arrested. But the bill doesn't say that, and Senator, I know you have a sub that may change that, and so I'm speaking solely to the bill in front of all of us right now. And that is the concern. I may be brought in front of a peace officer. The police officer, if there is a warrant, comes to me and says, hey, you've been identified as a possible illegal immigrant. I am a United States citizen, something I'm proud of. My passport says it. I checked. And so I am here legally, though the chair doesn't believe I graduated from Sherman. I also did that. And so our concern is that this bill, the perception for Missourians will change for those who came here lawfully, went through the onerous system that is the immigration process. It is a piece of conversation that we will have to have on the reformation of the immigration process itself, but this bill does create some concerns on the impact it will have for those who are here lawfully and paying taxes and living and their livelihoods as discrimination may occur.
Thank you. Questions for this witness? He already did. Well, do you have? I mean, have at it. I think he's ready to go. Have at it. Yeah. I mean, we're doing whatever. So.
I know I'm a rookie over here too. So thanks for
Senator Gregory.
Mm-hmm. You know, with the person that reports get the $1,000 reward. I'm not. Is there a mechanism in that in which, if there is false reporting from multiple times from the same person, will they be then? What's the deal with that?
Yep, it's already against the law. That is false reporting and harassment, multiple areas of law that you can be criminally prosecuted and civilly sued. But as I was explaining to Senator Weber, it's going to be hard for you to know that you're being harassed because, again, warrantless arrests, reasonably suspicious stops, these things are not allowed even by police officers. So people can't be walking up to someone they think's illegal and asking them, are you illegal? Let me see your papers. It's not allowed. It's already not allowed by law. It's U.S. constitutional law. We can't change that. So that's why, he's talking about he doesn't see warrants in the bill. You don't need to see warrants in the bill. It is the law. It is federal law. There must be a warrant, either a federal detainer warrant or, in this case, a bench warrant for an arrest. It is required by law. So, yes.
So if someone calling, multiple calls to the hotline from the same person.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I have it in the sub
Okay.
just for clarification, but again, it just
Okay,
clarifies.
it's
It's
in there,
already
that's
in
all
law. Page 5, subsection F, you'll see.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is this the, okay. Further, nobody else is here to testify in favor, correct? Okay. Anybody else here to testify in opposition to the bill? Go ahead and hop up. You have a minute. We gave some luxuries to the first couple witnesses, so we're going to keep it to 1 minute. Some of you also have testified earlier for against both bills, so we know some of the comments already. Go ahead. Go ahead.
My name is Gabriela Cepeda. As the daughter of immigrants, I grew up witnessing firsthand the sacrifices my parents made to give me a life filled with opportunity. They left behind the only home that they had ever known and to start anew in a place where they could build a future for their family. This story is not unique. It is the founding basis of our country. I want to repeat that. It is the founding basis of our country. Millions of people come here with the same hopes and dreams, often risking everything for a chance at safety, stability, and a better life. This bill, however, threatens to criminalize those hopes and dreams. It does not recognize the humanity behind these journeys. Instead, it imposes severe, life-altering punishment, including life imprisonment without parole, for individuals whose only civil offense is being present in this state without legal status. This is not justice, it's cruelty. Moreover, the creation of a bounty hunter program and tip line targeting undocumented individuals is not only unnecessarily but deeply dangerous. This profiling encouraged by SB72 will inevitably affect not only non-citizens but also citizens who look like me. Latinos and other people of color. This bill fosters a climate of fear where people feel unsafe engaging in even the most basic activities beyond going to work or school, terrified of being profiled or targeted. Life imprisonment for simply existing in the state without documentation is not just extreme, it's cruel and unusual punishment. Our Constitution guarantees protections for such punishments to anyone within this country, regardless of citizenship status.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none. And again, if you've testified already opposed to the bills, if you have some comments that aren't the same from the first bill to the second bill, that'd be really helpful. Also, if you have written testimony, we can get that to the committee, so you don't have to read off of a testimony. We can make sure the whole committee gets your written testimony. Proceed when you're ready. You have 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Beto Martinez. That is my name. Okay. We have directly seen, right, U.S. citizens across the country being detained. All right, and I know I only have 1 minute, so I want to get just to moving my talking points around. So from history, while Citizens Protection Act of 1998, if you know that act, should hold bounty hunters accountable from any harm done. Often in such cases, we know that harm is not is reversible. The majority of bail programs require no education, let alone the current gun law allows people at the age of 19 can become owners in the state, and this is your base. The 19-year-old's mental development is generally not considered fully matured, as the brain, particularly the prefrontal cortex responsible for decision-making and impulse control, continues to develop significantly into the mid to late 20s, and the base that is behind this is in that age range there. I want to share that, and this is research. If you had questions, I can
Thank you.
tell you where I got this from. One of the
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, one last thing.
Really quickly.
I wanna say. Immigrants come to work here. They are allowing businesses to hire more workers and grow their profit margin. Immigrants do not take jobs from others because they create a higher demand for goods and services and thus create more jobs. Immigrants contribute approximately $2.2 trillion annually to the U.S. economy, accounting for around 8% of the country's gross domestic product. That is larger than the whole Canadian economy. We oppose this awful legislation,
Thank you, sir.
and we affirm the right that people of color, indigenous, and immigrants be free from any form of discrimination or bias.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none. Further testimony against Senate Bill 72.
Good
Proceed.
evening. Jacqueline Barget, registered lobbyist here on behalf of the City of St. Louis to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 72. I also have a letter on Senate Bill 58 for you as well. The City of St. Louis is home to immigrants from across the world, including the biggest Bosnian population in the United States. We openly welcomed refugees from Afghanistan that helped our troops across the seas, and we have a very vibrant Latin American immigrant population that is the core of our Cherokee neighborhood. In levity of time, I also did include a letter from the mayor outlining her opposition to this, but in short, immigrants are a massive part of our community in the city of St. Louis and a core of our economy, and we want to make sure that any legislation that is passed is not instilling more fear in the immigrant population in St. Louis.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Proceed when you're ready.
Okay. Hi, my name's Seth Burball. I'm a lifelong resident of Missouri. I'm proud to say I'm a full-time student at Mizzou. I am also a worker for the state under the Department of Natural Resources. Growing up in rural Missouri, I have seen copious amounts of racism within my community, and I believe that this bill would fuel the hate that I see within my area. I do not believe that the people that I have heard these horrible things from would educate themselves on the legalities of this bill in depth enough to know that there are legal repercussions that come with falsely reporting somebody, and I believe that all of these false reports within this community would waste precious state time. As a lifelong resident of Missouri, I have faced problems within our Medicaid system and have spent months waiting for state workers to properly handle my case. I have also spent 4 years within our legal system, as I was molested from the time I was 9 to the time that I was 13, and it took over 4 years for them to handle my case. I'm not confident in the state's ability to properly handle all of these accusations towards people who are potentially legal residents in my area.
Thank you, sir. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in opposition? Come on up. Again, if you've testified opposed earlier already, it's already in the record, so.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much. I'm here because I'm worried about rural Missouri. My family has a farm in the Missouri River bottoms. 84% of Missouri's counties are dying. The death rate is greater than the birth rate. In the last census, 50 counties lost population, and that's true for those counties going back decades. The best thing that could happen to New Madrid County is that a Pakistani ophthalmologist would move there and treat old people's glaucoma. I really don't think it's a terrible thing that there's a group of El Salvadoran people in Marshall, Missouri working at the big grain elevator. If you're in Worth County, if you're in Scotland County can't hire a maintenance guy to clear the gravel roads. I think these counties are going to have ghost towns eventually. And if you are up in Worth County with fewer than 4,000 residents, how many families do you need to keep a restaurant open or keep a school open? So I think we should consider making it possible for people to move here. If you do your research, you'll find out that many economists, like 1,700 economists in 2017 and 500 in 2006, will tell you straight up that immigrants are good for our economy and we need them.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none. Further testimony in opposition. You can come up, so you can sit on both sides, surround the senator, and we'll go one at a time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Yasmin Bruno Valdez, and I am a longtime Missouri resident, community advocate, and a DACA recipient. And I stand before you to urge you to recognize my humanity and that of our diverse community in Kansas City and across the great state of Missouri. I implore you to oppose Senate Bill 72. This bill would not only tear apart families, schools, and congregations and communities, but also pit neighbors against one another. It would incentivize discrimination, foster xenophobia, and perpetuate division. By placing a price tag of a mere $1,000 on my head, this bill ignores the devastating realities of apprehension, detention, and deportation. It dismisses the traumatizing impacts of these encounters, where women like myself have faced horrifying violence, broken bones, black eyes, and in some cases, rape. You cannot place a price on human life, yet this bill attempts to do just that by encouraging individuals to report these those that they suspect of being undocumented. You are promoting a culture of fear, tearing at the fabric of our communities and the values our nation was founded on. I ask you to look at me in the eyes today and recognize that I am human, just like you. I breathe the same air, just like you. I share the same hopes, dreams, and fears, just like you. I strive for a better future for myself, my family, and that of the state of Missouri.
Thank you, ma'am.
Do not strip me of my humanity. Please stand against SB72.
Thank you for your testimony. Next witness in opposition. Go ahead when you're ready.
First, I would like to start by asking why you did not mention that the bill states that these immigrants will have lifetime imprisonment without the possibility of parole. And I ask you, where will these people be imprisoned? Okay, because there is a GEO group, which is a private-owned prison that holds illegal immigrants in Washington, and they had a lawsuit against them for forced labor, and they had to pay for that. So I think this real issue is that you guys want free labor from these people. They're not good enough to be in our country to live among us, but they're good enough to be a prisoner for you guys to line your pockets. This isn't about race, this is about money, okay? Because the person, this man, the watch that he has on is probably worth more than anybody in this room makes in a week. So that's what this really
And if
about.
you can keep your comments to the bill and the policy before you, we aren't going to
Well, I'm
disparage members of this body.
I'm not discouraging anybody, but I'm finished. So
Thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here? Ma'am, we need to record your name. Can you identify yourself?
My name is Amira.
Thank you. Next. It's on the sheet. Proceed when you're ready. You have 1 minute.
It's Amanda Cruz. I'll try to talk as quickly as I can. First of all, I wanted to address what was said about ICE not stopping people and asking for their papers. I've seen it. I am representing the Hispanic community because I am a part of the Hispanic community, and I have seen it multiple times this past weekend where they are walking up to people, let me see your residency. Do you have residency? My ex-husband was stopped because they're brown and they had ladders on their car, and they were asked, are you residents? Are you residents? And they took them all, except my ex-husband because he has his residency. But the rest of them got taken. They were all asked. That's the first thing they were asked. They weren't asked their names. They were asked what their status is. But I wanted to talk about these things because the Hispanic population in the St. Louis area, where we live, we hear gunshots all the time, constantly, but we don't see people out bounty hunting them, trying to put them in prison for the rest of their lives. These are people who came here simply to make a better life for their family, and they don't deserve life in prison simply for wanting better for their children and their families. So that's why I'm here. I'm
Thank you,
simply
ma'am.
trying to represent them. You're very welcome. Thank you.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Further opposition to the bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tori Schaefer with the ACLU of
Know your
Missouri.
face. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm here to speak in opposition of Senate Bill 72. Most of what I wanted to say today has already been covered, but I wanted to talk about federal preemption laws. So I included some case sites for you all where if this bill were to become law, the ACLU would bring a lawsuit just as we have in Iowa, Iowa, Oklahoma, and Texas. We've been successful in those cases because judges have agreed that we're likely to succeed on the merits because the federal government has an invested interest in carrying out federal law, which is exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about ICE enforcement, which clearly falls under federal law. Okay, so case sites on the back for you all. And then I also wanted to draw attention to the DNA sample portion of this bill. We at the ACLU of Missouri also oppose making a database of immigrants' DNA. We believe this would be a chilling misuse of Missouri's resources. And then again, referring back to the fiscal note from earlier, the Attorney General's office did not have time to input their fiscal impact on this, but we just want to estimate that multiple lawsuits will come from this, not only for us on the federal law challenges, but also from the individual challenges being brought about by the racial profiling that was mentioned earlier. So given the legal issues, right for challenge at the cost of taxpayers, and the sheer lack of necessity for this bill, we ask the committee to oppose.
Thank you. Senator Washington, go ahead.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for being here. I heard you mention that you've filed cases against similar statutes in Texas.
Texas, Oklahoma, and Iowa is where we have cases.
And I heard you say successful. So could you explain that?
Yeah, we've been successful at putting these laws on hold. And the crux of that legal argument is saying the enforcement of this federal law, right? Immigration policy, that is federal law. It is on ICE to carry out those procedures. If the states go in and create their own criminal statutes, it directly conflicts with what the federal government is doing.
And with
so-
these federal cases?
Yes, one is in the Eighth Circuit. So my colleague earlier who talked about our preliminary injunction that was upheld on Friday, that's in the Eighth Circuit, which is of course binding over our jurisdiction.
That's what I wanted you to say. I wasn't here when he talked about that,
No,
so.
I got it all written down for you too.
Yeah, and we can get his senator the case if he needed.
Yes. Thank you.
Schaefer, any information you have, you send it to the committee, we'll get it distributed. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you. Further testimony in opposition, go ahead.
Yep, you're okay. I had a lot more to say, but I didn't come here with really any facts, but what I did come is from my personal experience, and I did want to say that right now, as we speak, as we go through this, there are actually Hispanic people, immigrants, downtown, rebuilding our community that was messed up during the 2019 storm that destroyed downtown, which there really hasn't been anything done for the community since that happened. But what I have seen are Hispanic people down there rebuilding the homes and selling them to get the community back together. So I just think for Jefferson City, we're literally the capital of Missouri, and we can't even put our money where it needs to go. I mean, I see they put a wall up to cover all the broken homes and that were destroyed by the storm, but they didn't put the money in to fix those. And the only person I've seen so far are the immigrants downtown working on them. So I think that we definitely take far more from them than they ever would take from us.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Also, we need your name for our records
My
and
name
who you're
is
with.
Ace Fontenot, and I'm representing myself.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here in opposition?
Yes, that's from my
We asked you again, if you've come up and testified already against both of these bills, we have you on record for that. Proceed when you're ready.
My name is Ross Cleveland, Missouri resident, born and raised. I fear the most the social consequences of involving the general public in this bill. I think this will incentivize the general population to suspect any Hispanic-looking person of being a criminal. I spoke with my childhood best friend this past weekend, who's married to a Hispanic woman born to American citizens. They currently live in Kansas City, Missouri, where they already are experiencing increased levels of hate towards their community. His wife now carries her marriage license when she goes out until her passport arrives. She's never traveled outside of our country, so she hasn't needed a passport to prove American citizenship before. She is now getting that passport not to travel, but to prove to fellow Americans that she is a citizen. In today's Christian churches, many people think it ridiculous that any of them would have been opposed to Martin Luther King and the work that he did, but in the 1960s, many white Christians were opposed or not concerned with his cause, and very few marched with him. I believe it's time to stand on the right side of history and stand up for injustice instead of looking back at mistakes.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Go ahead. Proceed.
Yes, again, Ashley Hicks, St. Louis, Missouri. Actually, just what he said, I carry around my passport for the same reason, to show that I am a U.S. citizen. When I was young, I watched on the news a kid who got home and shot himself in the head because his parents was getting deported and he has no family. The most important thing here are these kids that nobody's talking about, or that who's going to be left without parents because they were born here and their parents weren't. Where are all these kids going to go? What is going to happen to them? They're going to foster care. What happens in foster care? Most of them get raped, get placed in homes, and get mistreated. Why these families, you're putting a price on their head, but yet you have American with white skin who are out here raping, doing whatever they want. They don't have a price on their head. Why do we have a price? What makes us different from you guys? What makes us different from a white? Just because we're color?
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Next, in opposition.
Hi, my name is Raisa Guevara. Senator, I'm from Venezuela.
Please,
I
ma'am,
moved-
if you wouldn't mind addressing the committee. Yes,
I moved
you're
to
here
Kansas.
in front
I
of
moved
us.
to Kansas City, Missouri, back in 1995, and this is a great country. It gave me the opportunity for me to be here, raise my son. I'm a health worker. I work for hospice for the last 23 years, and I'm a house owner. I pay my house. I never been in food stamp. I never use. I always pay for my insurance. I pay my taxes, and I'm a very successful person. As a being in America, the United States give me the opportunity for me to be where I am right now. Now, with this bill, anybody can ask me, are you a citizen of the United States? Are you illegal? Are you undocumented? This Missouri is a better state. I've been here for the last 30 years of my life, and I never feel discriminated until now. The people are even call me, oh, I don't want you to serve me because you're Mexican. I'm not Mexican. I was born in another country. But this is not right. I don't want my name, my last name, Guevara, to have $1,000 price. Missouri is the best state that I live here for 30 years, and I never feel discriminated or nothing against me. I ask you to think about it.
Thank you.
The passing this bill.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. Next, in opposition.
Thanks. Hello, my name is Liz Bird. I'm from Defiance, Missouri. I am opposed to SB72 as just a citizen of Missouri. I believe that it encourages racial profiling and enables vigilantism. I truly believe it's a law based in cruelty, and it's built to be abused, and it should not be passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Sean Cockrum. I'm the former president of the National Association of State Directors of Migrant Education. I had the privilege of serving 22 years as our state's director of migrant education for our Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And I retired a couple years ago, so now I'm just an old guy from Callaway County. And I appreciate the senator coming and making some clarifications today and explaining some things to us. And I heard him say a few things that I wanted to bring up. He said that a lot of this was just like ICE, to quote him. He mentioned the bounties, just like ICE. All those things were just like ICE, and then he was able to say that a lot of the things that we've heard through the media are false. So I'm curious, the committee may want to ask, if it's just like ICE and everything you hear about it is false, why would we want to spend $4 million per the fiscal note for maybe another political advertisement? Or why exactly we would want to be spending $4 million on this when it's just like ICE? Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none. Go ahead. Please.
Members of the committee, my name is Carla Juarez, and I serve as the Executive Director of Advocates for Immigrant Rights and Reconciliation. We're an immigrant rights advocacy that also provides education in the realities about immigration, in case you're interested. For the record, ICE does not pay people to report undocumented immigrants. They do have a hotline. They do not pay people. And if they do and we don't know about it, I'd like you to cite the source so we can inform our people. This bill is too vague. People are already struggling already, and immigrants are not to blame. Instead, we should be spending this money on healthcare, housing, and education. SB72 will in fact increase racial profiling. It will really well. A 10th grader probably can read this bill and say that it will increase racial profiling. Not by just the police, but our neighbors. It is simply racist. I was born in Mexico. Just by that statement and speaking Spanish at the grocery store with my family, siblings, friends, someone may suspect I'm undocumented and report me. That is just the reality that we're looking at with this bill. And I'm sorry, I asked for 30 more seconds. It took 10 years for me to obtain my citizenship. During that time, I was undocumented, held a work permit, and received my green card as well as my citizenship just 5 years ago. It is possible for an undocumented person to apply for immigration relief, but the wait is too long. And it is not fair and it is inhumane to prevent someone from seeking a safe life, real liberty, and the pursuit of happiness while they're waiting. It is unfair to be investigated. A reporting hotline and bounty hunter program is terrible. We firmly ask you to vote against this bill and any bill of this kind that will deny anybody basic human rights.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none. Really quick, if you could raise your hand if you're still set to testify on this bill so we know what we're up against. We have another bill that's going to take a while, and a lot of this is testimony we keep hearing. So if you could quickly go through your testimony, that'd be really helpful. So I think I had 4 more. Put your hands up really quick. There's more outside. Okay. We really need to get going. I think we're on hour 4 of the hearing. So go ahead and proceed. You have a minute.
My name is Andrea Pryor. I'm from Bourbon, Missouri. I've been a server for over 10 years and worked at 3 different Mexican restaurants. I work closely with a lot of immigrants within my community. I think it's important to point out this bill plays off of the fear-mongering and motivation for money in the citizens of Missouri, and I think that's wrong. I think it's a fact that the citizens of Missouri are motivated a lot more from empathy and love that they have for their neighbors and their community members. I think it's dangerous to not include that as a thing that you should take into consideration when you consider passing this bill, because the people next to the immigrants are not just going to sit next to them as they get carried away. So it's important to take into account the political climate that we have today in this day and age with our new president. And I think it would be in the safety of the police, the citizens, and all of the immigrants to understand that there is a unity between immigrants and citizens today.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions? Seeing none. Next. Next in opposition, we're going to move it down to 45 seconds because we have to get through another dozen people before our next bill, and we are going to hear our next bill. So if you could respect the people that are in this room on that too. They've been here waiting a long time to be considered. So go ahead when you're ready. You have 45 seconds.
Hi, my name is Shelley Saladin, and I would like to continue the conversation on the financial aspect. So according to the Economic Times, it costs nearly $1 million for deportation flights, and I know we're talking at the state level, and I don't have the state statistics, but I do have the national statistics. And this is bigger than even a state issue because this is going to be affecting our entire country if Missouri passes this bill. And we're already a country that's trillions of dollars in debt. So, like, who's going to be paying for this? Because if Missourians are expected to foot the bill to deport its immigrants, that means, like, taxes are likely to increase. And I know the Missourians are tired of being price gouged
Thank you,
with
ma'am.
their taxes.
Appreciate your testimony. Go ahead with your testimony.
Oop, my bad.
Please make sure that you fill out a witness form too for our records. We need, if you want it to be on the record. Go ahead.
Really quick, which one of you is Senator Gregory?
Me.
Which
You.
you want on the committee or the sponsor of the bill? Because the sponsor's sitting right next to you, and there's another Senator Gregory that sits on this committee. But if you could keep your comments to the committee so we know where you stand on the issue, that's where we're at. So
Cool.
30 seconds.
Wait, so this is your bill?
Yes.
Ah.
What?
Hi, my name's Ariana Budyard. I'm a citizen. I was born in California. I could add on to a lot of the heartfelt stories I've heard, and I could tell you about the people that in my life are going to be directly affected by this. But something that I haven't heard anybody touch on is the historical overlap of these things already previously happening. In 1943, during World War II, bounty hunters were hired on by the Nazis in Germany for this specific and same cause.
Thank you for your testimony.
Really quick, I want to look you in the face and tell you
Ma'am,
you're a fucking
ma'am,
fascist,
ma'am.
Gregory.
We're not going to disparage members of the committee. Please exit the room. It's uncalled for and unnecessary. If you want to have a civil debate, we're here to have it, and we've been very, very gracious today to try to get all these people through and to hear your stories and listen to your comments. If you could respect us back, that would be super helpful. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Eze Poachman, as in yellow, and Missourians have real problems, like problems that need to be addressed. We don't need senators creating new problems for us. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, in opposition, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of new points. I think everyone covered everything really well. I think this bill's racist. It discriminates against people because of their skin color. I think you're also just inviting racist people, and especially like Proud Boys and other terrorist organizations, to target immigrants and people of color. And I mean, these are the things that you're going to be remembered for, are these bills. So make sure and back it up with 100% of your
Ma'am,
heart.
you're talking to the committee, please.
Okay,
Don't.
make sure and back it up with 100% of your heart, because you're going to be remembered on this side of history.
Thank you for your testimony. Ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Maggie DeMuhlmeister. I'm an educator in Missouri and an artist. This bill proposes a dehumanizing program that's intended to cause chaos and sow division in Missouri. It's written with calculated cruelty and a cold dismissal of fundamental human rights. If it's enacted, it will be remembered forever as an atrocity, and those who passed it into law will be remembered as egregious violators of human rights. All this in a state with crumbling infrastructure, with declining education, in desperate need of resources, with enrollment steadily dropping and our education ranking 30th in the nation. This bill proposes allocating funds not to schools, to teachers, or to infrastructure, but instead to pit neighbors against neighbors.
Thank you for your testimony.
I'm not finished.
I'm really sorry.
I would like to remind you that no one is illegal on stolen land.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony, sir. Go ahead. You have 45 seconds.
Thank you. James Pepler, St. Louis, Missouri, retired Air Force employee. And I've missed some of the testimony, but what I want to emphasize is like life in prison without parole for not having documentation. That is the same sentence as we give people for first-degree murder. That's not proportionate. I would also like to say, because I haven't heard it emphasized, that this really smacks of creating a prison labor pool that our corporations can draw from and pay people 7 cents an hour and not pay a legal Missouri citizen $7.25 an hour, or whatever the minimum wage has been since 1986.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for your testimony. Go ahead, ma'am. You're 45 seconds.
My name is Laura. I am here on behalf of my community and also as a citizen of Missouri. My understanding of making laws is that you are responsible for predicting the impact that it's going to have on your communities, correct? Because there's a difference between writing something and interpreting what is going to happen. That means that you all will be responsible for the families torn apart, for all of the people who will inevitably get racially profiled, who have incredible difficulty in finding defense attorneys, because as was mentioned earlier, that takes years. That'll be on this committee. All of the damage to our communities, everything that's lost, resources, time, lives, families, businesses, that will be on you, because you did not properly predict how this will decimate our community.
Thank you for your testimony. Go ahead, sir. 45 seconds.
My name is Ethan Crawford from St. Louis. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here in opposition of Senate Bill 72, which I believe will not serve the interest of Missouri community, but will instead perpetuate a system that disproportionately benefits corporations and industries that profit from prison labor. The 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, includes an exemption, prison labor. This exemption has created a legal loophole that has allowed exploitation of incarcerated individuals for cheap, often forced labor. SB72 will disproportionately benefit industries that rely on prison labor. People must acknowledge that prison labor is already a multi-billion-dollar industry in Missouri and in the United States.
Thank you, sir, for your testimony. And if you want to send that to the committee, written testimony, we'll get it out to the whole committee. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Sankeeth Tumala. I'm a PhD in nuclear engineering student at the Missouri S&T, and I just want to say that as stated by previous speakers, this would harm us economically, and even the people who might have those tendencies to be to stand against immigrants, illegal or otherwise, this is still going to hurt them. Economically speaking, they're still going to be subject to the increase in taxes, and the only people that are going to profit are, as stated previously, those working in the prison industrial complex.
Thank you. Next witness in opposition. Hop up quickly. We're going to have to move on if you don't. Thank you.
Hola y muy buenos días del comité. My name's Lauren Hughes, and I came here from Kansas City, but I was born and raised in the Rio Grande Valley on the border of Mexico. My lived experience for 25 years and ties to farmers, business, and community there contradicts the brief visits that Ms. Carter spoke about earlier. You may feel that our testimonies are redundant, but we feel that these contentious bills are redundant. I'd actually like to speak directly to you, Mr. Gregory.
Ma'am, if you can speak to the committee, you can't speak to the sponsor. You're here in front of our committee, and we're taking testimony and questions.
All right, perfect. Well, I would like to speak to the demographics of District 15, which were unknown earlier. They're actually 4.3 Hispanic and Latino. So about 78% of Mexican citizens are Roman Catholic, like some people in this
If you
room.
want to, ma'am, if you want to email the demographics of his district to our committee, we'll distribute those as needed, but we have to move through the testimony.
Yeah, so people baptized in the faith believe that the most prosperous nations are obliged, to the extent that they are able, to welcome the foreigner in search and security and means of livelihood which cannot be found in their country of origins.
Okay, ma'am,
Families
we
use-
need to move on to the next witness.
Have I hit 60 seconds?
45 seconds.
A moment
And
ago,
they're
you
up.
said illegal immigration is bad. We the people believe that no human is illegal.
Thank you. Next witness in opposition. Just both of you come up. We'll just go one at a time. You streamline it a little bit. Either one, proceed when you're ready.
I'll go. Okay. Hi, I'm Natalia. I'm from Kansas City. I'm a member of the Kansas-Missouri Dream Alliance to stand in opposition of SB72. SB72 is inhumane and puts a price tag on the heads of each of our undocumented loved ones, neighbors, and coworkers. The type of language in this bill is dangerous and encourages racial profiling, allowing private citizens, bounty hunters, to do the duties of federal government into their own hands, putting the health and safety at risk of our entire community, which I think should be a top concern of the Department of Public Safety. Over 2,000 people have already emailed their opposition. Many people from across the state have taken time from their work days to be here in person today to deliver testimony to oppose this harmful anti-immigrant bill. Throughout the afternoon, it's been mentioned several times how some testimonies are making arguments that we have already heard as to discourage us from continuing to speak on it. The reason for these hearings is to hear from the people of Missouri on this bill, and it's clear the people of Missouri oppose SB72 and will continue to oppose it one after another this
Thank you.
afternoon and going forward.
Thank you, ma'am. And we're not trying to cause anybody to not be heard, but this is a longer process than most Senate committees. If you just take a look, we are trying to give everybody a voice. Ma'am, go ahead. You have 45 seconds.
Thank you, Senator Fitzwater, and thank you for making the time to hear everyone. I know the time is limited, but it does mean a lot to not cut off the hearing. I'm going to talk about something that I've heard very few people mention, and that is that without access to the committee substitute, at least, the original bill filing had the penalty being associated with this new crime as life sentence without the possibility of parole. I want to point out that this is on par with first-degree murder, child abuse resulting in serious injury or death, arson resulting in serious injury or death, bombing a bus, and treason. Even if this was going to be a thing that we criminalize, that is not a fitting sentence for that new crime. And Missouri simply doesn't have the resources to support putting people in life sentences without the possibility of parole. We already spend $76 million in taxpayer dollars a year on the Department of Corrections, and we don't need to spend more doing something the federal government is already responsible for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next witness, go ahead.
My name is Rodrigo Alvarez. I came here about 20 years ago. My parents have been as slow abiding as they can be. They have always taught me to do the right thing, and I feel like this bill, based on racial profiling and not effort, is actually profiling us immigrants based on appearances, and I think that is unconstitutional.
Thank you.
I'm not done,
oh.
but I appreciate you. Sorry.
20 seconds. Sorry.
You know what? I'm done. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you for your testimony. How many more are here to testify in opposition? Can you raise your hand? Last one. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Jeff Steck again with the Mid-Missouri Fellowship of Reconciliation. Earlier, I heard Senator Gregory mention again that this is kind of the equivalent of ICE here in Missouri, and it seems that it's redundant. Why have it? We already have this federal process in place. No need to recreate it. The other thing that Senator Gregory had mentioned was talking about terrorists, and I think there's that kind of that comparison of illegal aliens as being terrorists, and that's far from the truth. I'll just point out Cato Institute looked at Texas crime figures for 2018. It looked at per 100,000 people, and they found that of 100,000 people, 1,422 people, native-born Texans, had committed crimes. They also 100,000 people, and they found that 535 of 100,000 people had committed crimes who were legal immigrants, and 782 people per 100,000 people committed crimes who were illegal immigrants. So much less of a danger. I think we need to change the policy and recognize the humanity of all.
Thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in opposition? Last chance. Seeing none, anybody for informational purposes only? Seeing none, that'll conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 72. Senator Brattin, you've been very patient today. Senate Bill 23, when you're ready, go ahead and go ahead and start the hearing. People will be filing out, but we need to get going. It's been a long day for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, for the record, Senator Rick Brattin, 31st Senatorial District, Cass County, Johnson County, and Bates County, bringing forward Senate Bill 23. So basically, virtually every member on here has actually voted on SEPA, had even supported SEPA. The 8th Circuit, it was challenged by the DOJ. They found some issues, not with the underlying aspect of SEPA, just with references to federal agents and just basically the preamble of what SEPA was, not so much the underlying tenets of what SEPA was, of the enforcement mechanism. So basically that's what this is. This isn't rehashing SEPA. This isn't coming and reinventing the wheel or any sort of additions or anything. This is just clarifying and making it in line with what the 8th Circuit had done. So basically what you're seeing with the new language, it's not new language. It's just being reshuffled into a different section. And that's basically what it is. Now, I'll just briefly tell you where the actual changes of the bill. There was a committee substitute that was distributed that fixed that. Let me I passed it. There we go. So on page 4, the 1.451, that's where there's a little bit of there were the changes, and it removed the references to the federal agents that the courts had seen as the problematic, and that they didn't like that. So this basically just only references any state or local official aiding the feds. That's all that this was cleanup language. If you go to page 5, all the way down to the subsection 1. Under 471, it basically just reworded and reshuffled that to come in line with what the court ruling was. So I know you guys have had an extremely daunting hearing prior to this one, so I will not belabor the point and would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
I don't know if there's ever a scenario where SEPA would be the dialed back bill
no,
that we hear.
I was really depressed to see everybody leave
maybe
the room.
I don't know. We haven't heard from the police yet, so maybe not. Any questions for the sponsor of the bill? Senator Weber, go ahead.
Thanks, sir. Senator, this is my first time hearing the bill because it was gone for a while. Could you just go over, and you did a little bit, but explain the changes? So is the court unconstitutional? What are the pieces that have been removed from that? I said it was reworked, but is there stuff that's gone?
Yeah, so at the beginning of it was the declarative statement as to why we needed the bill. So it was kind of all the whereases, why we wanted to invoke our 10th Amendment right to not work with the feds to confiscate the Second Amendment or our Second Amendment right or any guns. That was kind of the premise, and that's what's being removed from that. And then that I referenced on the page 4 and then the page 5, that's where the real changes of it originally referenced the federal agents that we weren't going to work with them. The court didn't like that we referenced the federal agents because of the supremacy aspect of it. So this just makes sure that we're only naming, and I'm sorry, I should have made sure that you did have the committee sub. I apologize. So yeah, it's just making sure that we're only referencing the state or local officials is all that we are trying to do and clean that up.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none. How many, well, I guess everybody in here is going to say something. So I'm just going to go ahead and all those in support, we'll go back and forth. If you could try to keep it to 2 minutes, since you've all been waiting very patiently, we'll give a lot of grace in here to the extent that it's possible, so we're here really super late. So if you can keep it to 2 minutes, we'd appreciate it, and we will try to be concise on the testimony, even though this is a big bill. We know it's important, needs to be heard. So first witness in support of the bill, hop up here, and let's begin the witnesses. Proceed when you're ready, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Aaron Dorr, Missouri Firearms Coalition. This bill is kind of just a regurgitation of what passed in this chamber in 2021. The court had problems with a couple parts of the language. It did not have a problem with the idea of Missouri not cooperating with federal law enforcement in the purposes of gun confiscation. So that section has been removed from here to restate what Missouri cops can and cannot do. The court also had no problem with the civil penalties that were passed in 2021 that also remains here in the bill. At the end of the day, it's a 14-page bill with, I think, 3 paragraphs of actually modified language. Everything else here is a repaste with a couple modifications from 2021. SEPA, for those who weren't here, did not vote for this in 2021, simply says that Missouri is not going to help federal government enforce federal gun control laws. That's what SEPA was all about, and it had an enforcement clause in case any jurisdiction chose to willfully violate SEPA law. We believe this is still required even with a new administration because we don't know who we're going to have in the White House next. So our members are in full support of this bill. We'd ask this body to move it with no weakening amendments. I would mention briefly the issue of law enforcement comes up. We've talked a lot with law enforcement in the state, both here in the lobby, but also regular frontline cops who call and talk with our office. Almost every frontline cop that we have spoken to or who reached out to us is in support of this bill back in 2021 and today because they don't want to be burdened by having to enforce federal gun control laws. They want to do their job and enforce Missouri law, and they're in support of this. They were then and they are today. That's my comments.
Thank you. Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, I guess we'll go back and forth. So those in opposition, and anybody here in opposition to Senate Bill 23, go ahead and hop up here, and we'll get your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Once again, my name is David Parrish. I'm the sheriff of Lewis County, Missouri, and I represent the Missouri sheriffs across the state in opposition to this bill in its current form. I was here in 2021. We did have these discussions then, and our concerns were realized after SAPA passed. Our main concern at the time was we did not want to be prevented from chasing bandits, chasing bad guys, catching criminals. And what this bill did, and my colleague from the police chiefs has better information about how it affected police departments and sheriffs across the state, we were unable, or their liability carriers were unwilling to support them even entering a stolen weapon into our mules system. And that, we think, is clearly unfair to the gun rights of our Missouri citizens.
The governor himself has set out in his executive order and asked that we help apprehend the 17,000 felonies or persons with felonies that are currently wanted by the state of Missouri. This type of legislation will hamper and create major obstacles for our officers and our deputies throughout the state to go and catch these bad guys in the event that they somehow intervene in a way that someone in the state of Missouri would believe was in error and then sue us for taking a criminal off the street because we might have unfortunately or fortunately supported some federal agent, some FBI agent, some ATF agent, some person like that who's helped us get criminals off the street. And so with that, I know it's been a long day for all of you. I appreciate your questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your time here today.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. So we'll go back to in support. Is anybody else here in support of Senate Bill 23? If so, hop up here. And thanks for your patience. I know you've been here for a while today too.
Do I look cranky?
No.
Specifically
I'm just
to
saying.
me?
I mean,
I'm all
anybody
good.
who's
I've
willing to
been
sit through all of
itching
that
for the opportunity,
it's
so-
appreciated.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Susan Myers of the 20th. I'm here to support Senate Bill 23. Nothing demonstrates how badly SAPA is needed, quite like the way the federal government came after it with such a vengeance to shut it down. The fact that we now have a new administration in the White House does not cause my belief to waver on the importance of getting SAPA back in place as quickly as possible. There's no guarantee that the ATF will stop reinterpreting its rules to eke out ever more gun control. We have an individual likely to soon be confirmed as Attorney General of the United States that advocated for and enacted red flag laws in her state of Florida, something myself and the ladies I volunteer alongside are adamantly opposed to. She also supported and defended the restriction on 18 to 20-year-olds from purchasing firearms, again, something I do not support. The Supreme Court continues to punt on hearing assault weapon ban cases, allowing rifles and standard capacity magazines that are unquestionably commonly owned for lawful purposes by millions of citizens to remain off limits to residents in several states. The longer this issue is allowed to linger, the risk of some future Congress bringing a federal ban back will continue to exist. SAPA is a necessary bulwark against whatever comes out of D.C. that Missouri simply does not wish to help enforce. Bring it back, build it with a simple, strong message of intent that cannot be misconstrued as going any further than the anti-commandeering doctrine that it is and always was based upon. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none.
I'll leave.
We'll go back to opposition. Anybody else here in opposition to Senate Bill 23? And proceed when you're ready, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I appreciate your time. I'll try to make this quick because I know it's been a long day. I'm with the Missouri Police Chiefs Association Law Enforcement Legislative Coalition. We are opposing this at this time. We've not been able to review the substitute bill. Some of the issues, as my colleague brought up with the previous bill, Second Amendment Preservation Act did prohibit. We had legal advisors, attorneys and such that advised some of our police chiefs that they could not put stolen guns into the computer. They could not enter them into NCIC and the CJIS system. This prevents a law-abiding gun owner from getting their gun returned. Additionally, if somebody committed a crime with that weapon, it would go into an evidence lockup. It would stay there. That case would be adjudicated, and eventually that gun would most likely be destroyed. We don't think this is pro-Second Amendment. There were other things that negative effects that occurred from the Second Amendment Preservation Act, to include our police chiefs and law enforcement leadership having to resign from drug task force boards and other federal partners, and we don't want to encroach on that at a time when we're trying to lower crime And we're dealing with an opioid epidemic. We don't want to weaken our drug task forces. We've written all of this out. I'm going to submit it because I know it's been a long day. And I will end it there. I appreciate your time.
Sir, can you also state your name for our public records? Too?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Chris DiGiuseppe.
Thank you.
All right.
Any questions for the witness? Thank you for your testimony, sir. All right, we're going to go back to, I think we're in support, right? I'm trying to wrap my mind around where we're at in this thing. Anybody else here to testify in support of Senate Bill 23?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Ron Calzone. I'm one of the directors of Missouri First. I've been involved with the passage, drafting and passage and promotion of the Second Amendment Preservation Act since 2013. When it passed in 2021, was the product of several years of a lot of study and a lot of effort to make sure that we dotted all of our I's and crossed all of our T's. The first objective of the Second Amendment Preservation Act was to protect the rights of honest, law-abiding Missouri citizens. The second objective was to protect the frontline law enforcement officer, the one who might be concerned about working for a boss that was going to say, you have to help the feds enforce what they might consider to be an unconstitutional gun law, like confiscation of scary black rifles, for instance. So from the beginning, this has been something that's about protecting law enforcement officers that respect our rights. I think there's a pretty good reason to believe that some of the concerns that have been expressed by the legal counsel that some LEOs have gotten about not entering stolen weapons in mules and resigning from task force, part of their motivation may have been to help build a record that would help on appeal when they went to federal court. And so that's something to consider. There's nothing in SEPA that says that you cannot participate in a drug task force or even an ATF task force. Simply, you can avoid any kind of running. You can avoid running afoul of SEPA if you just simply make sure that you're enforcing Missouri gun laws, almost all of which are just mirror images of the federal gun law. So you can be part of a drug task force, firearms task force, any kind of a federal task force. You just make sure that you have an agreement with the feds that you are going to charge criminals under Missouri law and not federal law. And anything else, I think, is a misunderstanding. This bill does not change the fundamental functional portions of SEPA. It just takes away the explanation that the General Assembly made for us taking this action, that is applying the anti-commandeering doctrine and saying we don't want to participate. And at least, I haven't seen the substitute, but at least the original bill the senator filed, that's all it did. It leaves the functional part in just as it existed before. I'm available for questions if you have any.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none. Further testimony in opposition. We'll go back to opposition, so hop up here and please make sure you fill out a witness form. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
And being patient. I know you all were patient today too, so thank you for that.
Thank you so much for saying that. I want to start off by just sharing that another organization left their written testimony with me. It's the League of Women Voters of
That's
Missouri.
fine. It'll go into the record.
Okay.
Yep.
Hi, my name's Kristen Bowen, and I am from Columbia, where I've lived for 20 years raising my boys. I'm a volunteer speaking on behalf of the Missouri chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. I've been a supporter of Moms since 2013, and I'm testifying today on SB23 because it is a dangerous bill that undermines federal firearms regulations by prohibiting state and local officials from enforcing our federal laws, potentially creating a patchwork of enforcement that endangers public safety and hinders efforts to address gun violence. I just want to share some bottom line statistics because we haven't heard these yet tonight. Missouri has the 4th highest rate of gun violence in the country. In the years since I joined Moms Demand, from 2014 to 2023, sadly, the rate of Missouri gun death increased 40%. The rate of gun suicide increased 26%. Gun homicides have increased 59%. So my experience volunteering with Moms Demand and rigorously advocating for safety measures that are supported by evidence leads me to emphasize this bottom line. SB23 will not reduce gun violence. I know we're running short on time, so I want to go quickly, and there's more detail in my testimony. This bill poses 3 significant concerns. First of all, de facto nullification. By hindering enforcement at the state and local levels, it effectively nullifies federal laws within Missouri's borders. And even though federal agents technically retain authority, they often rely on cooperation with local agencies to enforce our laws effectively. Although I know this bill wants to account for task forces, and we've heard about cooperation tonight from our law enforcement leaders, the standard is confusing and it's impossible to apply. And we think that putting more mental strain on our police, instilling fear in them, is misguided at this moment in time. Second point is the erosion of federal-state cooperation, which you've heard our law enforcement officers share about already. This bill weakens law enforcement, period. The bill imposes civil penalties on law enforcement for assisting in enforcing federal firearm laws, discouraging collaboration between agencies. Quickly, this will just cripple our law enforcement's ability to address illegal gun trafficking and organized crime, which is a topic we heard a lot about today, by the way. Our country and our state are already reeling from mass shootings, from school shootings, and the daily toll of gun violence right here in Missouri. Under a nullification law, Missouri law enforcement officers would no longer be as able to assist federal authorities in keeping guns out of the hands of convicted felons, of domestic abusers, and other dangerous individuals. So I'm here to encourage the members to please vote no on SB23, and thank you for letting me share this testimony today.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none. Anybody here to testify in favor? We'll go back to in favor of the bill. Anyone? Anybody here any more to testify in opposition?
Hi, my name is Julie Heisey. I'm just an average citizen, and I didn't have a whole lot to say, but I just wanted to have my 2 cents that I think it's inaccurate and hypocritical for the General Assembly to say in subsection 10 that they strongly promote gun safety when there's no background checks for purchasing a gun in Missouri. I consider that very hypocritical. Thank you.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none. Anybody else here to testify in favor? Sorry, this is last chance. In favor? Seeing none. Okay, we're just going to stick on opposition now. Sorry. Proceed when you're ready.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Jacqueline Barget here again to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 23 on behalf of the City of St. Louis. I do have some written testimony that I'll submit, but one thing that's written in here that I thought would be helpful is, as you all know, the City of St. Louis sued to block this law from going into place when it passed originally, and their objection was not unique. Over 60 Missouri police chiefs also filed a friend of the court brief to support the lawsuit against SEPA, and in those they stated that the act hindered law enforcement's ability to defend and protect Missouri citizens, and I think that is at the root of what our opposition is, especially in a time when we are trying to move the needle in the City of St. Louis and lower crime. We want every resource available to us to help do that.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in opposition to the bill? If you're going to do it, pop up. Sorry, it's been a long day.
I'll be very brief.
Thank
I'm
you.
Jeff Stack with the Mid-Missouri Fellowship of Reconciliation. I won't repeat what the folks have said, but we are also in opposition to this measure. Nothing against Senator Brattin. But there are federal laws in place already. They should be honored, and it's about public safety. We think that that we've heard from police officers and all that it's most appropriate to honor those federal laws and not to throw them out.
Thank you, sir.
That's all.
Okay. Questions for the witness? Seeing none. Thank you for testimony. Anybody else in opposition to the bill? All right. Seeing none. Anybody for informational purposes only? Proceed when you're ready, sir.
Thank you. My name is Dave Rowland. I'm the Director of Litigation for the Freedom Center of Missouri, testifying for informational purposes. And just to make clear, I helped to draft the original version of SEPA. And I wanted to clarify the reason it was structured the way that it was. There was a general sense that Missourians wanted our law enforcement officials to focus on enforcing Missouri law. And when we were preparing the initial version of this, we thought it would be helpful to explain the federal sphere of influence and the state sphere of influence. And so we included the preface, which was section 1.410, that lays out the principles of federalism. And in doing that, we basically just literally echoed Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and Alexander Hamilton. The following provisions were the teeth of SEPA. They were what it was actually designed to do, and that was to make sure that Missouri resources and law enforcement officials were focused on enforcing the laws that are made here in Jefferson City by the people that we elect, not enforcing federal law. So the bill passed, and I wanted to make sure you understood where the litigation currently stands on that. So the Eighth Circuit did rule that the preface, at least in part, was unconstitutional. They determined, even though I thought we were pretty careful with the wording to make clear that Missouri has no power to nullify federal law, Missouri cannot stop federal officials from enforcing federal law, the Eighth Circuit says merely saying that you don't like what Congress did is enough to call this a violation of the Supremacy Clause. But they did specify that if Missouri wants to withhold its resources and its authority to assist in the enforcement of these federal laws, they're allowed to do that. The Constitution lets them do that. So the amended version of this bill, which you guys are considering, strips out the parts of the original bill that the Eighth Circuit said were effectively trying to nullify state law. It removes those entirely. I have not seen the amendment that's been offered, but I believe it knocks out one additional provision that currently reads, if the federal government assumes powers that the people did not grant, then its acts are unauthoritative, void, and of no force. Again, that's just James Madison and Thomas Jefferson, but if there's a chance that the courts may say, oh, this is trying to nullify the law, let's go ahead and removing it should eliminate that particular concern for the courts. My understanding is that the Attorney General's office has asked the U.S. Supreme Court to review the Eighth Circuit's decision. If they, in fact, have done that, then it's possible that we'll see further action in the federal litigation. It may be that the U.S. Supreme Court decides to take up the case in its entirety. It may be that they say, you know what, let's have the Eighth Circuit take another look at it. Either of these are possible. We just won't know for a couple of months, in all likelihood, what the Supreme Court's going to do with it. But that is where things stand right now. I did want to clarify a little bit, to the extent that there were concerns raised about the inability to deal with stolen weapons. My understanding, which could be incorrect, but my understanding is that Missouri has laws against stealing firearms, and SEPA allows not only for the enforcement of firearms laws, but if you refer to section 1.480.4, it also specifies that law enforcement officials are permitted to insist on the enforcement of federal felonies as long as they are, as long as the federal law is substantially similar to those found in Chapter 570 or 571. So again, in the hearing process last time around, those concerns by law enforcement were heard, and that's why 1.480 is written the way that it is, to make sure that you can assist with the enforcement of certain federal laws as long as there is a Missouri parallel. So with that, I'll take whatever questions you guys have, but I wanted to make sure that you were clear on where everything stands.
Questions for the witness? Senator Washington.
I just have one quick question. You talked about not knowing where the Supreme Court stood on this.
So the Attorney General's office has, I believe, has asked the U.S. Supreme Court to review the case.
So the review that they did in 2023 and sustained the Eighth District's order, are they trying to go against it, or?
Okay, no. So the Supreme Court did not review the substance of the case. There was a request for the Supreme Court to intervene in the proceedings in the lower courts. That was not a ruling on the merits of the case. And so
so we think that even though they already said no once, that they're going to come back and get back into the case?
I think what
Are you
we're
a
dealing
lawyer,
with-
sir? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be
I am.
disrespectful.
Yes.
So we think that the court, which is heavily conservative, who said, I don't want to be bothered with this just 17, 18 months ago, is going to change their mind?
So respectfully, you're not understanding what the Supreme Court did.
Don't do that, because then I'm going to yell at you. Because I got the same law degree you got, bro.
Okay, yell
So
at me.
don't
Come on,
do
let's
that.
talk.
Don't do that. Don't
Let's
do
talk.
that. My question to you is, what's going to be different to make the Supreme Court say, hey, I didn't want to be bothered with this 18 months ago, but now I'm going to do it now?
Okay, so as I think you're aware, there are different stages of litigation. And
I don't need you to go through all that. I know all that.
For the benefit
I
of
want
the
you to
rest of the
no, because you just told me I didn't understand something, and you know, as a lawyer, that's one thing we don't like people to say to us, because it's highly disrespectful. It's very disrespectful, and I know you know I'm a lawyer because you've been in here. Now, tell me, in your opinion, what's gonna make them change their mind to hear this case?
my opinion is you don't understand why they did what they did a year and a
Okay,
half
I'm done with
ago.
you.
Okay. For the benefit of the rest of the panel,
Just
what the Supreme Court did, they were asked to intervene on a procedural
Sir,
matter.
we're gonna
They
have to.
declined.
We're just gonna have to move on, and we will. If there are questions from the committee,
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Senator Shelton,
I'm
go
a little
ahead.
curious. Can you run? I'm not an attorney. Run me through the process, would you please?
Sure. So when a lower court makes a decision, a procedural decision, there's the opportunity to ask the Supreme Court to intervene and alter the way that the case is going to proceed in the lower courts. That's what was requested. And so the Supreme Court said, we're not going to intervene at this time. The Eighth Circuit proceeded to resolve the case on the merits. And once that decision was in place, the Attorney General's office has the opportunity to ask the Supreme Court, okay, now, will you address the substance of the case, not this procedural issue, the substance. And that's what the Attorney General's office has done. And the Supreme Court regularly decides that they're not going to intervene at one stage, and then they choose. So, for example, one of the criminal cases against President Trump, they were asked to intervene on a procedural issue. They said, no, we're not going to intervene at this point. And then they later took up the merits of the case. That was the immunity case.
Yep.
So this happens all the time at the Supreme Court. It's just, it was not the right time for them to address the merits. Now it is. And they may decide to, they may not. I don't know.
Got it.
We should find that out in about 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the
Sure,
explanation.
not a problem.
Further questions for the witness? Senator Weber, go
So
ahead.
you said we'll discover in 6 to 8 weeks?
I think we'll have a better idea. So right now what's going to happen is the Department of Justice is going to have an opportunity to respond to the Attorney General's request. One of the X factors in all of this is we've got a change in administration. And so John Sauer, who previously had argued in favor of SEPA, is now going to be the Solicitor General of the United States. And honestly, we don't know what position they're going to take. They may say, we would like the Supreme Court to take this case. They may say, we'd rather you just ask the Eighth Circuit to take another look.
So if there's going to be clarity in 6 to 8 weeks, would it not make sense to just hold everything for 6 to 8 weeks until we find out whether there's some clarity?
That's up to you guys. Like that's a political question, and I try not to delve into those. So it's up to you.
It's not up to me. It's up to
Well, it's up to the folks who
Senator,
cast the votes.
you're not in the House anymore. You'll find that you have a lot of authority over this process.
Oh,
but,
well then, all right.
yeah.
All right.
Maybe not this committee process, but in a process.
My
somewhere.
point is just that if we're going to get clarity in 6 to 8 weeks, maybe it's worth getting that clarity.
It's certainly a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here for informational purposes only? Seeing none, that'll conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 23. Senator Brattin, any closing thoughts?
No, thank you. Thank you for hearing the bill.
Thank you. I guess I should wrap up the committee officially. I make a motion that we adjourn. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it.
adjourned.